can't have 20-hour discussions. It's like, yeah, we're gonna turn that guy down.
You have a reading as a supervisor.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that.
Seeing as how it's 7 o'clock, I'd like to call February 18th, 2026 meeting of the Webster Township Planning Commission to order. If you are willing and able, please stand and join us in reciting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You okay? Yeah. Where's your chair? Okay, move it. We have an agenda in front of us, commissioners. Is there anything that needs to be changed or added to the agenda? Yeah. I would like to, under discussion items, between C and D, add lighting nuisance ordinance, which would make that D, potential meeting dates, E, and regular meeting agenda for March 18th as F. Is there anything else? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So moved.
Second. George and Paul. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, commissioners. We added chairperson's remarks to sort of align with what's happening on the board's agenda. And I only have a couple. We may have something coming back to us that we all ought to just keep in the back of our minds. The storage containers issue has arisen. So we may be hearing about that. So, go back and look at the ordinance from the last time we looked at it a couple of months ago. And then secondly, having sat on committees and watched what you guys, I would normally put it at the end, but I just want to let everybody know that the committee work that everybody's been doing is exemplary because it helps us get through these meetings in an efficient and thorough fashion. So thank you all. Next on our agenda is the election of officers. There are 3 positions to be elected: the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. I would like to make a motion that George Goodman be reappointed or re-elected as vice chair. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody on that side?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, George. Welcome back. Oh, did you accept?
Oh, I accept.
Okay. Wake up, George.
I didn't have that Starbucks like he had.
I'd also like to renominate Kay Stremler as our secretary.
Second.
Uh-oh. Who got in first?
Julie.
Julie. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Kay, do accept.
I accept.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to nominate Tom as chair. Second.
Keep going, George.
All in favor?
Now you gotta do a roll call.
That's what I'm doing. All in favor? Aye. Roll call, go ahead.
Do I?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
You accept it, huh?
Yes, I accept. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda tonight are the meeting minutes from January 21 meeting. corrections or additions or deletions from that document? I didn't see any this time. Anybody else? Yeah, I have a motion then to accept the minutes from January 21 meeting as drafted.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Any members? Or commission members? Next is an opportunity for public comment. If anybody would like to come up to the microphone and make a public comment, please keep your comments relatively brief, and if you have not signed in at the table in the back, please do so. Bless you.
Hi, my name is Pat.
Been done. No, I'm just kidding. Apparently,
I was going to compliment you all that you're sitting at least a foot closer than the last time I was here, so that's improvement. Maybe eventually you'll be able to. All right, Pat Schloss, 5420 Farrell Road. I'm here tonight to address the revision of the ordinance related to the residential solar panels in Webster Township. My family had solar panels installed on the roof of our barn in 2019, and after that barn burned down in 2023, we replaced them with a ground-based array. So I'd briefly like to mention two topics regarding the ordinance. So first, I'd like to call your attention to section H, which is use of excess energy on page 28, I believe, in your packet. So I suspect that every solar array in the township is in violation of this provision. My problem is with the first statement of the section, which begins, incidental excess energy generated due to normal system operation. I'm not sure what incidental excess energy is. So if you have a solar panel, we sell all of the electricity we produce to DTE, and then we buy it back when we need it. Battery technology is expensive and too inefficient, so anything we generate is excess, I think, by definition. And so it all leaves our property. And so when the power goes out, our solar panels are not producing electricity, even if it's the middle of July. And so while solar panels are sized for the needs of the property, our production in July makes up for a lack of production right now. A household's energy needs may change over time or between owners. So if a household's needs drop, should they have to remove one of the panels or more? Of course not, that would be silly, right? And so I'd suggest removing the word incidental from this section since it's not defined. And I believe there's other provisions in the ordinance regarding the size that should cover any concerns about the level of energy production. Second, and probably the more important thing, is screening. So again, we've had two sets of solar panels, and it was not an issue, no problem, to put solar panels on the roof of our barn that anybody going on Farrell Road could see. But we have the same size array, and we could not put those solar panels in the footprint of the old barn, or in front of that, or anywhere closer to the road. And in fact, there are places in our own backyard where we also couldn't put the panel because it wouldn't have been perfectly screened. Why? It's the same surface area, the same material, the same everything. There's no difference. The screening rules do not make sense, especially when you can put them on the roof. No, I'm not thinking that, I think you should be able to put them on the roof without a question. So as an example of how this is subjective, if you read the ZBA meeting minutes from October 14th, the committee was concerned about a solar array being erected at 5185 Zeeb Road that was partially exposed on the south side. The array would have been more than 800 feet from Daly Road. That space is in the PDR and owned by the same homeowners that wanted to put in the array. You would have to have gone looking for the array to see it. And I would worry about the safety of your driving if you were able to find the offending panels. And so here's an idea to deal with this. Keep your eyes on the road. It's pretty simple. So my reaction to the ZBA minutes was that the members of the ZBA had a pretty clear anti-solar position and were happy to spend other people's money, referring to the panels as being, quote, industrial. As they did in this case, they conflated solar farms along 94, which you see as you head west, with the realities of what we have in our own backyards. The expense of the array increases significantly as the distance from the house increases because a thicker gauge copper wire is required to go past 300 feet. And so it cost us actually thousands of dollars, and I'm sure for the family at 5185 Zeeb, maybe tens of thousands of dollars to install their panels where the township wanted them, not where they wanted to. So the ZBA is spending our money effectively by forcing us to do this. And so they might say it's not a hardship, but again, it's not their expense. So Webster Township is known by the companies that install solar panels as being painful to work with and being excessively restrictive on where the site of the arrays can go. And so I suspect the township and your all's interest in this is to maintain property values. And so if anyone should be worried about property values, it's me and my own property values, or the family at 5185, or the people across the street from me, or the people in my backyard who have solar panels, right? And so why not trust us to maintain our own property values? Why worry about what we're going to do to the neighborhood when basically everyone in our neighborhood has solar panels? I kind of wonder why you wouldn't if you're in our neighborhood, right? You're kind of the oddball if you don't. And so in the revised language for small-scale solar arrays, I would encourage you to please relax or eliminate the screening requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Can you hear me? Connie Savender, 5803 Vaughan Road. So I would like to make some comments about the draft section for the accessory small solar energy systems. So first of all, section B says, the height of a ground-mounted small solar energy system when oriented to maximum tilt shall not exceed 20 feet above ground. 20 feet at a maximum tilt above ground is huge. I feel like an array of that height is not a small solar array. Would you be able to offer insight on how this dimension was established and what qualifies something 20 feet tall to be small? Part F, submittal requirements. The submittal requirements are incomplete. There is absolutely no way to fully understand the screening situation by the site plan and one elevation view. An on-site survey and being able to see the horizontal views from all directions is essential. Otherwise, false screening conclusions will result. This sort of thing has already happened. In other words, the site plan is a plan view drawing that shows the outline of trees, berms, foliage, etc. Or not. Plan view drawings do not show elevations or give an indication of what would be seen at the horizontal elevation view relative to screening. Some trees and foliage may be limbed up, allowing visual horizontal sight to the solar array, or some foliage may be only 3 feet above the ground, while small ground-mounted solar arrays can be as high as 20 feet, allowing visual horizontal sight to the solar array. Also, the person wanting to install ground-mounted solar arrays should be required to use or supply their own screening rather than relying on perceived screening that is on the neighbor's property. While the site plan may show trees, berms, and other foliage on neighboring properties that could be perceived as screening, it is not clear how neighbors use their property. As a result, the ground-mounted solar array could be staring the neighbor in the face fully, depending on how the neighbor uses their property. Hence, screening should be provided by the person wanting the solar array and not the neighbor. So if there are words to the contrary in the draft, I missed it. So finally, when the solar ordinance was in the process of being written some years ago, I attended some of those meetings here. Residents were concerned about having to look at ground-mounted solar arrays, and I heard them talk about this around our rural township. The industrial nature of solar arrays, even small ones, can conflict with the expected open foliage, laden spaces in a rural setting. The Planning Commission's solution to this concern was to require screening. In fact, the part of the existing ordinance that pertains to the screening, Part L, the existing ordinance, is the most detailed part of that entire section. Despite these details, arrays exist around the township that are completely exposed to roads and neighbors. Please can you all consider additional changes to the draft to allow for more detailed evaluation of screening requirements and also some method of enforcement. Thank you.
Good evening, Peter Stevens, 7500 Trotters Lane. Just a couple quick comments on what's been discussed previously here. I know I've said before, when it comes down to aesthetics for your neighbors, I'm sorry, people really do need to have more freedom in their property and not have the aesthetics of all of those around them imposed on them and their property. That's just a general feeling I have about personal freedom and property ownership in the United States. Second, as to your consideration of a moratorium on data centers in the township, I for one would absolutely support the township board taking quick and decisive action to prevent data centers from incorporating themselves into our community here in Webster Township. We still have a good deal of farming and agriculture going on here, and one of the main concerns, as Kay Strumler pointed out last night to the board, these data centers use a huge amount of water. If we look at the data centers just going on in the more immediate area of our surrounding neighborhood, the Saline, Wayne County, and I believe the one even just in Ypsilanti, these are data centers that are being proposed to an extent where they are going to be using over 1 gigawatt of power, which if you know anything about power usage in the state of Michigan, 1 gigawatt is essentially equal to 800,000 households of average electrical use. Also, these systems use a huge amount of water, even if they are what they consider a completely closed-loop system. A lot of these things, the smallest one in Ypsilanti Township is actually like 1.2 gigawatts of power draw, and they're proposing that they're going to use somewhere in the area of 200,000 gallons of water draw per day when they reach maximum output and processing. About 80% of that water draw is burned off in evaporation just through the processes, no matter how efficient they try to get in their capture and cooling processes currently. It's just something I don't want to see. I think it is going to endanger the livelihood of people in the township. I think it is going to increase costs for all of us in the township and even the surrounding areas. So again, I would just support the Planning Commission taking whatever actions you can to prevent that from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. Move on to our zoning administrator's report.
So I was trying to take notes. Okay. Public-wise, it's been a pretty quiet month, but we had a lot of good ordinance-related discussions and some procedural, typing some procedures, internal office procedures and stuff like that. So it was efficient in a different way. I do have a quick question. I don't know if this is the right time. Tom, you made a comment in the beginning. You said the storage containers issue is rising or risen. Have you heard from, is it from the residents or
Yep.
anything I need to be aware? Okay.
Nothing to do yet. Don't put it on an agenda. But people in the office have mentioned to me that people have mentioned to them that storage containers are showing up. Apparently there's a double stack sitting right down the road here, one on top of the other. I think there are 3 of them. So something to keep our eye on, and if somebody complains but right now we're not supposed to stack them anyway.
Right, they're not permitted.
Apparently they're stacked down the road here somewhere. I haven't driven by yet, but been busy going to funerals.
I was just curious if there's any information I should be aware or have access to it.
Not yet.
Other than that,
I mean, nobody's complained about it, but it is against the ordinance, so.
right. Other than that, if there are any specific questions or items you want me to expand on, I'm happy to expand on.
Actually, I do have a question, and it's sort of, I don't know whether Rick, it falls in your bailiwick for reporter, yours. On your report, Sri, you showed number 5 on amendments for the pipeline PC, standards of review. Rick, has that come up in your meeting? Because I have not heard from anybody on arranging a meeting for that day.
We did talk about it, and I shared at the meeting, December meeting, and then I indicated to the Secretary Joe Peterson that if he is interested to be part of the review team, and he said yes. And I was going to bring it up today to see who would be interested to be part. I think you expressed interest at the last meeting.
Yep.
Okay. So, no, that is on my list of things to
Okay.
get a meeting on everybody's calendar.
Thank you.
We did, I think I'll probably defer that to Kay when the timing is right, but we did have a good meeting where we talked about some minutes. And then a quick takeaway from that meeting was that, okay, the township has takeaway for the planning commission. I won't get into detail for the ZBA thing, but the minutes policy that's out there, that's adopted by the board, addresses all committees in the township. It doesn't provide any specific guidance to specific boards or commissions. So the advice would be to, if there's anything you wanted to be specific to planning commission, it is recommended that you add those to your bylaws. If there's a specific detail you want to be consistent, or a policy that only applies to planning commission, that doesn't obviously contradict with the board policy, but a little bit above and beyond, updating the bylaws would be the way to go.
And I think that would be the things we've talked about in this meeting, that the purpose of the planning commission minutes is to provide a history of what we've talked about and the rationale behind our decisions.
Right.
Not just we decided, but why. And that's a bit more than is sometimes put in other boards' minutes. So we could write a few things down that we, as guidance. And the Michigan Planning and Zoning Act does have guidance for boards like us. It's just not in our minutes policy.
Does anybody feel that we need to add it to our minutes policy?
We're doing it. I mean,
It's just formalizing what we've been doing it.
Okay.
so maybe it's not urgent, but
Yes, it's not time sensitive, but just, formalizing the procedure on paper.
And when do you think it's going to come before us?
Oh, I just want to give you a heads up. Like I said, this is not time sensitive, maybe that's something
I know.
Kay and I and Martha can talk and then bring it back.
I've said this before, I'm a planner. My brain is like into July.
Okay.
When do you think it's going to hit?
whenever we say.
Okay, oh, really? I mean, it's,
So this is,
okay,
so the board minutes aren't changing, or the overall minutes policy
Doesn't
isn't changing.
Right.
right.
So if we want to reflect what we're actually doing, we would need to put it in our bylaws.
So I guess the reason why I brought it up is just to get a sense of, do you think we should amend the bylaws? If the planning commission thinks, yeah, why not, then we can go back and then figure out when we can bring it back.
So maybe the overall bylaws need to be reviewed.
Well,
Overall bylaws.
that's up to planning commission. This is the only item I tagged.
Well, we could add it to our next agenda because we're going to have solar on there. And then, I mean, if it's not time sensitive, we can add it to the March agenda. And if we don't get to it,
That's fine.
Yeah, I think we can add it as a discussion item where we're not talking about specific drafts, but then just identify what areas you would want to review,
Yes.
right? And then maybe then get back to the board.
okay, thank you. Anything else for Sri? Any questions on the permits, compliance issues? Seeing none, we'll move on to the board report. Jeff?
So we had our meeting last night. We were slated to talk about the budget, but that was removed. We're going to have a special meeting with regards to that. We had 3 presentations last night for funding, Dexter Senior Center, WAVE, and historic Society. There were actually about 7 people talked last night, and 3 of those were about trees. Discussing basically the Worker Road issue that's going on with the road commission. There were a couple suggestions. One of them was for heritage tree mapping, one was for a tree ordinance. So just, that was the majority of the people that spoke about that. There were other issues brought up. We had one bring up data centers.
I did my Huron River Watershed
Yes.
Council verbal update.
Yes, and there was a Huron River Watershed Council verbal update. We had Dexter Area Fire Department in a local agreement draft was presented to us that we talked about. That was a draft put together by Webster Township. There's currently one in place, but they've been talking, as I believe I mentioned before, about changing the funding models. So they put something together on their own with regards to that, which is basically saying this is what we support, which is not in alignment with what this township supports. So we already knew that, but at least there's some stuff in writing that's there, and we can kind of work off it. Hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement with the other 2 bodies. There was supposed to be attorney contact policy was supposed to be discussed last night. It was discussed, but we didn't actually vote on any resolution. We had discussion about that, about the zoning enforcement and the zoning administrator, and we talked about those. Those will be voted on probably at the special meeting. I think they'll be included in that. We had extension of poverty exemptions last night. That got increased. It was for total assets. The big thing that changed, total assets went from 50,000 to 65. We had repealed an old health insurance policy. Turns out there was one in place since 2002. That one got repealed and there's a new thing in place, though there weren't any specifics done with regards to that, because every year the amount that the officers and the employees basically have to pay in is at 80-20, is 100%. That is done every year, so that was not done yet. That'll be part of the budget cycle. The last thing really was we had to pay for a PDR, or a PDR survey was approved. Apparently there's been some change in the state that normally they ask for the survey later. Now they're asking for it as one of the first things. That's a change in requirements. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeff on the board report? I'll just comment on this since you didn't get to the budget. Please add a little extra money for the master plan. I know there's some that's been put in, but please try to save it for us. We're about to enlist some lawyers and consultants. Anything else?
No, have we given them an estimate of what it would cost? Without meeting Mike, since he's putting it together.
If you look at we have a discussion item later.
Okay.
That might provide a little guidance, because the board actually has to do some more work before we can do some work. So, and there's a rough timeline there to look at, and I hope it gets shared with the board. So, did you provide what we think is the PDR report also?
That's pretty much all there was, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all we talked about in our meeting.
Okay. Rick, anything for ZBA this month?
No, we haven't had a meeting since our last meeting. I guess there is one coming up on
March 3rd, but it's mostly administrative. The ZBA will be looking at revised applications and a couple of bylaws, potential bylaws updates. March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd, Tuesday.
I'm sorry, to go back, you mentioned a comment about a tree ordinance, can you?
That was just a suggestion by one of the property owners that spoke.
Like, you can't take out X size of a tree without a special permit or something?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes, Kay?
Our clerk, Tony, contacted me today and wanted to follow up on that. And I could either give an update now or at the end when we're having chats. About-
She asked you about a tree ordinance?
Since it was in his report, do you want to
So
compliment that?
she asked, have residents asked before about a tree ordinance? Have we ever discussed it? This is what I was asking Paul about. So, last night they talked about trees, heritage trees in right-of-ways. They referenced the Workner Road. So back in the day when the road commission got some grants to, work on territorial and mast, they were cutting down trees as supposedly required by the grants, and there was a big uproar. And not only in our township, but in others, and I think they stopped doing it on territorial. And on mast, there were some people from the township who went out and looked at what they were doing to help determine which trees actually needed to be cut down for safety reasons. And then I think that during the master planning process, one time we did talk about, some townships have a tree ordinance where unless you're a licensed tree farmer, under certain conditions, certain types of trees or certain numbers, you would have to get a permit from the township. And the conclusion from that discussion was that would be a non-starter here. On the other hand, Ypsilanti Township has an ordinance where they just include it in the natural features inventory, whether you have heritage trees. And then we say, try to keep as many trees as you can in our ordinance, but they would specifically call those out. So last night, those are the examples I told Tony. And last night, one of them mentioned the Webster Township master plan. And in their master plan, they do have an action item which says that they will coordinate with the Washtenaw County Road Commission to develop a policy regarding protection and management of heritage trees within the right-of-way. So I'm trying 2 different ways to contact Webster Township to see if they've made any progress on that. So Tony just wanted to sort of get an idea of what's out there, what have we talked about, have residents ever asked about this before?
You've been out Dexter Chelsea Road, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
A
So
lot
tho-
of heritage trees aren't there anymore.
So that's the information, and Tony was interested in following up. So if you have any further ideas or information, we can see if we should talk about this. At the moment, it's just collecting information.
Is it your view at this point, which I realize is early, that it should be a master plan review item or an ordinance that we attempt to draft before that?
I cannot comment on that because it's not, based on what they said last night, it's not clear to me if we need an ordinance or what kind. So to me, it's just too early. I don't know. And I don't know, I can't say.
Okay.
Just collecting information, personally. I don't know, Paul was there through all this.
Yeah, the 3 people that spoke, was it tree removal on the right of way of
In-
roads?
Yes, that was the main focus last night, and previously for the other ones, that was the main focus. This heritage tree inventory is a little bit of a challenge, because who's gonna make it, and once you make it, are you gonna tell people who have heritage trees on their property what they can do with them? So this was a problem before, that idea. So I'm not sure I can do anything at this moment other than collect information.
You're very good at collecting information.
Thank you.
And it was, I just want to add, it was brought up last night, that the road committee, Brand brought up that we had been speaking with, road commission with regards to it, and they're very sensitive about trees, so much so here, especially in this township, that there's a few times that we've asked them, why did you leave this tree? Because it's so close to the road. There's a few of them, and there is a disconnect, I think, between what's going on out on Workner is, I believe, a engineering project. So there's different divisions in the road commission, and the maintenance division is being very sensitive about some of the trees. I don't think the engineering generally And Werkner, I guess, I haven't talked to them about it, but I think it sounds like Werkner is, they're widening the road, so,
Widen the shoulder, not the road.
Well,
it's still,
there's the right of way. I planted a tree.
maybe
there
Julie can talk
I,
about
No,
this.
I'm not getting into this.
I planted a tree there 30 years ago, and now they're gonna whack down my tree to widen the berm.
But it's probably a
You
difference,
see the scar trees that people have hit
I
already.
understand.
probably a difference in the divisions,
Yeah.
really.
Will, and I don't know if anybody knows this, will the utilities be a part of this discussion? Because DT is the one that,
They're a
I mean,
different, they're a different beast altogether.
well, you know, we've got a major transmission line going through the township and, okay.
Just one comment, I think I would echo Kay's comments, if we do consider something like that, enforcing would be a very big challenge. Because we've just coming to a comfort where the county is not issuing any building related permits, even if it is like putting a fireplace in a house, they ask us, they send people to check with us to make sure that's okay. And I've had some complaints where people have gone to the county directly, applied for erosion, soil erosion permit, and were clearing sites. And I would know it after the fact because a neighbor called. And I tried multiple times to work with the soil erosion department, Water Resource Commission at the county to see if they can inform us when they get a permit before they issue a permit. But no success. So it would be really hard to enforce. The tree might have been gone by the time we know. So.
Right. Thanks. Okay. Anybody else on trees at the moment?
Well, yeah, when we do the site plan reviews, we do request
Then we do.
tree inventories.
Right.
So we take a look at it then.
But we don't call out heritage trees specifically,
We ask them to do a full tree inventory.
full tree.
Yeah. So you've taken a step there to identify trees, and this is one more step to identify heritage trees.
That, yes, but individual properties, it's going to be a challenge. There's no way. It's impossible.
Yeah, that will, that's,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, we'll deal with it when we come to it. Okay, natural features.
Due to the township being closed that day due to weather, we did not meet in January.
Okay.
And we will meet next Monday because it was a holiday this week.
Thank you for that update. We have no public hearing tonight, so we'll move on to item 16, old business, which is small solar systems. Some of our residents have spoken, and as a background, most of you know that the ZBA had some issues that they needed to deal with on screening. We also talked previously about the master plan and how we wanted to retain some kind of natural look as opposed to having solar arrays here and there, sort of indiscriminately put in. We do have two members, Kay and Paul, who have been on that subcommittee with our planner to look at that. And at the last meeting, we had a number of drafts come up, and we asked Sri to go back and give us a red line version so we know what was changed, and a clean version. So that's where we are tonight. Does one of the subcommittee members want to speak to it, or Sri? Anything you want to talk about the red line?
I can go. I think just a few comments I wanted to say. We did talk, our meeting was very, very effective. I think we had a very good discussion, not just this and then just other items that might be affected with the ordinance. And then we also had a good quick call with our the DFD fire inspector, because we were curious about how battery storage might impact, fire protection. And then I also had a very good conversation with Linda Hood with Homeland Solar. They've applied for multiple permits within the township for ground solar and rooftop solar, and I've worked with her especially with regards to the screening challenges. and placement of solar panels in the front yard, the prohibition we currently have. And then she gave some very good insight on how things work and what kind of information they can provide, what kind of information might be hard to provide, and it was very helpful. So that was also, I think that conversation kind of happened after the draft was formulated, because I wanted to share those points with her and then say, hey, what do you think? Can you provide us, like for example, can you provide us the 12-month consecutive energy data, or can you provide us how you came up with that number? So I think she liked where we're headed. Just a couple of comments she made with regards to the battery storage, which I think Pat kind of referred to as well. She said customers that have batteries set up their systems to use battery at night. Any excess that is produced during the day will go to replenish the battery, then export it to the grid. And then pretty much most of the Webster Township is connected to the DTE grid, so they do have an option to sell energy to DTE and then buy it back as needed. And then when we, subcommittee, talked about the incidental excess use of energy, the intent was that they would size the system based on how much usage is required for that house. And then sometimes they may not use all the energy that's being produced. Like let's say, and that's not being produced, so that's the incidental excess energy. They're not, like, we're not sizing the system in order to produce more energy. It's just if we're able to save energy, that's excess energy. Does it make sense? I guess not. Like let's say they look at our 12-month energy usage, and then they say, okay, you need about 15 panels to be able to produce the required energy for your house. And sometimes losing the number value of it. But we can get, I think I can get that data by the time we get to that point. If you want to move on with the discussion, so that I don't sit here and try to remember that exact word.
Okay. Well, I have some comments on the red line. Does anybody else?
So we haven't seen this final version, so I also have a couple of questions.
Right.
Yeah. So I would appreciate going through it part by part, because we didn't really talk about it last
No, we didn't. That's correct. Well, I made my comments on the red line version because, no, we didn't.
What I was saying was that we talked about it, and then I emailed a copy to the members. We didn't meet to talk about it, but they have, I did share the copy before I put it in the PC packet.
Right. My comments are on the red line,
Me too.
not on the final draft.
Mine are red line.
Okay. Anybody else got comments on the red line you want to? Well, we'll just go through it. Starting on page 21 of 49 of our packets. I did not have any comments on section A, B, or C. Did anybody else?
Go ahead, Dan.
I mean, you're the committee, so
Okay. There we go, okay. On B, maybe it's, Sri, I've asked you questions on this before, and you go, we moved it to a second, so correct me if I'm wrong. On B to D, it says such systems may not extend beyond the maximum applicable structure height permitted in the zoning district in the state of location. Now, does the existing ordinance allow the panel to go above the current peak of the roof? And should it not be allowed to go above the peak of the roof? It'll meet the height, but I understood, I thought it was before that you couldn't exceed the peak of the roof with the panel. And I don't know.
of the primary structure, right?
Sorry?
Of the primary structure, the house, or the barn.
Your roof, let's say your roof peak is 20 feet.
Right.
It's within the maximum height
So the existing ordinance says you cannot go beyond the peak of the roof. Because when that was written, the height was measured at the peak. We did do the height amendment where we said the maximum height is measured at the midpoint of the roof.
And I'd have to look, make sure you're right there. Maybe 2020. Okay, go ahead, so you remove this because you believe it should go above the peak, as long as it's below.
I only removed the point that said it cannot exceed the maximum height because the maximum height is measured at the peak, at the midpoint, but the panels can go beyond the midpoint.
They can, but should they allow it to be allowed to go?
Right, so the only thing I removed where we talked about was that it cannot exceed the maximum height because of how it's measured, but that they cannot go beyond the peak of the roof. I don't think we removed it. If it's not there, I can go back and add it, but the intent was never to remove that. The intent,
I couldn't find.
we did talk about, if you remember, what if it's a pitched roof versus a flat roof?
Oh, I know that, yeah.
Right, for the pitched roof, shall be flush mounted and parallel to the surface of the roof. Such systems may not extend beyond the maximum. Oh, wait. Okay, I need to look into that. We did talk about, C, we said if a small solar energy system is mounted on a structural component on which it is mounted and beyond the peak of the roof. But I'll go back and make sure that we carry that over for the rooftop mounted, not just structure mounted.
Yeah, so the structure model is a side panel, not a roof panel.
Right. We did say that building 2A, that the rooftop solar shall be flush mounted and parallel to the surface of the roof. The flush mounted kind of cannot exceed more than a couple of inches. But we can make it more clear under A.
That'll be an interpretation of the ZBA. You don't want, you want to say, okay, they can't go, if you remain silent on it, you'll end up with the ZBA.
Right, so we can add something to 2A at the end that says, shall be flush mounted and parallel to the surface of the roof. Such systems cannot extend beyond the peak of the roof. At the end of sentence A.
And my other comment was, there was a citizen who expressed concern about 20 feet. So that's not a change, that's a carryover.
That's
In fact,
correct.
we made it more restrictive on height because we took the maximum of the district out and limited it to 20 feet, right?
Right. I do have just a little bit of a comment. So of all the, I received the comment this afternoon too, so I just did a quick search of, the ground mount solar we reviewed. Not all, but just at random, like 4 or 5. The average maximum height was like between 14, less than 15 feet.
Yeah, I don't see you going, you're not gonna wanna spend money to put it higher than you need to. This would allow it in bad elevations to get to a higher elevation so
Right.
you get more sun, so.
Right.
You haven't had that case yet where you
Not
get
yet.
higher.
So what I was trying to say is 20 is not that far off from 15. It is still. But it will allow for roofs, grades.
You just said allow for what?
The grading.
Grades,
The
yeah,
topography.
exactly.
Yes.
That's all I have for those sections you called out.
I had a question about E2B.
Mhm.
So, I had asked this and you had sort of sent us an explanation, but could you explain to all of us where this maximum tilt shall not exceed 20 degrees? What's
I
the
don't know why.
rationale for that?
I don't know why there is a rationale for that.
What, is there one then? What is it? Is there one?
So the rationale for that one came from my conversations with Linda at Solar Panel, because when we talked about flat roof solar panels as a team, we talked about what if somebody puts like something that is similar to a ground solar on top of a flat roof. And the flat roof could be a shed or a structure which is 12 feet, and then you have a 15-foot solar panel on top of it. how, what would that mean for screening requirements? So the review team talked about, okay, in that scenario, if somebody, it's very rare, but let's say we have a flat roof, which is not a house, but it could be a non-residential structure or a shed or a detached accessory structure, which is 12 foot tall. And then they place a ground mount, a system that is similar to ground mount solar on top of it, then it can be a very high. So I talked, because I'm not expert in it, I talked to the Linda at Homeland Solar, and then she indicated that they cannot be flush mount because they need an angle. And then we talked about, okay, then is there a way we can put a maximum height limit to it? Like it cannot be 20 feet from the flat roof, but like is there a way we can put a maximum limit to it? And then she said that it's hard to put a number to maximum height of the maximum projection because they keep changing depending on the time of the day and the time of the year. So then they said the 20-degree maximum tilt came from her. She said it's hard to put a height limit that they can comply with when they size and design the structures. And then she said, but 20 degrees the minimum, maximum tilt is the minimum that they can comply, that we can ask them to comply if it's a structure on a flat roof. So
But why do we need it at all? If we have a height requirement in place, then the degree to which somebody mounts it, we should not be controlling.
the reason why we were, the review team talked about it, it's obviously open for discussion for planning commission, is when we're talking about the screening requirements. Like, so but it's up for discussion, it's a placeholder up for discussion. She also indicated that the county building code requires to stay at least 3 feet away from edge of the wall when you're placing something on a flat roof. So that itself offsets the solar panel a little from, the screen. It's like in a very, very rare occasion where you have the structure closer to the road and then placing the solar on top of it is.
Yeah, again, my brain says, why are we putting a 20-degree restriction on it? The solar panel installer is going to install it as long as there's a height requirement, that they're going to install it to take maximum advantage of the sun throughout the year. Some of them do have tracking on them, but I don't think a residential person's going to spend money on a sun tracking system. That's big ones.
So she couldn't provide me any guidance on what the height requirement can be.
No, but that's what I mean, but that's why we have a height requirement in here, with a degree requirement. What do we get? I mean, how are you going to enforce that at ZBA? You're going to go, well, let me go out and get my inclinometer and stick it on the side of it and have you reduce it by 2 degrees because the ground shifted and moved or something.
As long as you got your height requirement, is
That's-
that good enough?
That's my point. I think we're adding complexity where there doesn't need to be complexity to an ordinance that we can't enforce.
It will be part of the manufacturing spec sheet is what she indicated, but
But that's on their end, not on us to tell.
But for the building mount, for the roof,
We're only talking
the
flat
roof
roofs.
flat roofs, there is no height requirement.
Right.
And there's no screening either.
Right.
So that's the question.
So the height, overall height.
There is no.
There's an overall height,
Right.
but let's say you're building shorter than that, and you take up all the space. So the worry was it might be unsightly, but if
Well,
there's
but
no
then-
way,
Then you get into aesthetics. I mean,
yes,
as long as the screening is there,
no,
I
there's
don't
no
know that I
screening.
can go to her,
There's no screening,
there's no screening.
Oh, that's right.
no
Because
screening
it's a-
on rooftops.
Like, imagine 12
Yeah,
feet,
but
the,
still, so,
Okay, that's the discussion.
I really don't understand. I'm at a loss on why 20 degrees and how we're gonna tell somebody to do 20 degrees. As long as it's,
We're talking about the maker.
So if I may, so I think the 20-degree topic does not make sense, just strike it. Right now, I don't think we need to talk about the screening topic, that's a whole nother topic.
That's ground mounted.
We can't enforce it, as long as it's set, but we've said it 6 times. As long as the height requirement is there, strike it. It's not enforceable, it doesn't make sense. The whole screening conversation is another section here. So I just think to not belabor this particular 20-degree topic is just strike it.
Just for clarity so that I understand, when you say height requirement, we're talking about the height requirement for accessory structures, not how much it can project from top of the flat roof. Because that's what I was referring to. Like you have a 12-foot flat roof, then the panels can go up to 13 feet. Because 25 would be the maximum height for a detached accessory structure. And if the flat roof is for a building, the maximum height is 40 feet.
Makes sense.
So I think maybe the
Well,
You have a look on your face like,
I'd like to have another meeting with the subcommittee and invite the person that you
Sure.
gave you that number to talk to her about why she gave you
I was
20,
thinking the same,
why she gave you
yes.
20 degrees.
Mhm.
It could certainly be structural, because it's a lot different putting a solar panel like that on the ground and anchoring it into concrete than putting it on a flat roof and putting it into wood. So it might be a deal with wind, but you're saying it doesn't matter to this planning commission structurally, but you have some common sense into it too, to protect the homeowner.
Well, that becomes a structural
And that's
topic.
why I want to talk to her,
Right.
because she's an expert on installing these, and she gave Sri a number. Now we're throwing that number away, I'd like to talk to the person that gave the number.
yeah. Yeah. That makes
Well,
sense.
but so to counter that, I would have thought that they would have said because of structural integrity. That's why they were using that, okay? So I think the way I can visualize this is a solar panel is not a flag. So it's not gonna be flying in the wind like a flag. There is gonna be some sort of a tilt. Or I guess what I should say is I've never seen a solar panel that doesn't have some sort of a tilt to it. It's not a flag, so it's not straight up and down, okay? Certainly that's a great point for the structural integrity, but that being said, you don't need to put a percentage on it.
Well, it's gonna be based on how the sun tracks. At a different latitude, you're gonna have a different angle on a solar panel depending on where the sun arcs across the thing.
That is
If that's
correct.
where that 20 degrees comes from,
We
that
put
makes
up,
sense.
we put up solar panels today for some signs, and the manufacturer says 20 degrees.
Yeah, so it must be where we live.
Yes, it's how to get the best arrays from the sun.
Still, probably, you guys are meeting with her.
Well, it's-
I mean, if we're gonna put it in an ordinance,
That's one question I'd like to ask her, the other ones too.
Yeah.
I just saw your comments from her.
I did ask her if she's open to have a Zoom call meeting next time we meet, and then she's open.
okay. Well, we turned the page, I have a question on D, and it sort of gets to Pat's question. There's a word in there, reasonably necessary to generate electricity primarily for who is establishing that reasonableness?
So on F4,
Well,
oh, I thought you were asking a question, sorry.
I'm asking the question on section 12.110D, maximum surface area. It says, shall not exceed an area reasonably necessary to generate electricity for the primary use. What's reasonable? How are we gonna enforce reasonable?
That's the answer, F4.
Then we should reference it. Because we're putting the condition in before somebody knows what to do.
Yeah, you can rewrite it in a second.
But it sounds like this is something that the solar company does when they're planning. Why do we need to put it in our ordinance? Because they're not gonna, it seems overreaching. That,
That's where I was sort of, and even in F4 we say reasonably related.
Look at what we used to have. And the subcommittee talked to Sri about it. We said, what are the sizes of the solar panels that we put in? She said, not even close to 1,500, they're more like, what, Sri, 800, 600?
Yeah.
So it was asked, how size is based on that. So those are the words we wanted to put in here, that the homeowner communicates with the solar panel company on the size. If you don't like the word, that's the intent. You don't put an absolute number, which
You know,
5 years ago seemed like a good number. Solar panels probably improved a lot since then. So the number is now smaller, so we didn't want to put something in that was way oversized. We got rid of that.
should there be a provision in it then if something changes? I'm saying something that probably won't happen, but you never know. So let's say Pat puts one in for his house. And then he adds a chicken coop. And then they add another accessory structure for tractor storage. And they want to increase the size of that solar array to meet that requirement. At that point, they won't have 12 months of history to bring in. So that's a question on what is reasonable and at what time frame. I had trouble wrapping my head around where it goes. If it was a snapshot in time, I get it. But that means that this whole thing is stuck in time. And I don't know if it is or not. I wouldn't want to be the person that 2 years from now has to come back and go, hey, you know.
So to Julie's point on it, I don't understand why, if the company wants your electric bills, that's fine, but I wanna play the other side of that, is I'm building a brand new, I just bought 10 acres, I'm building a brand new property, brand new barns, brand new house. I have zero, there are no bills, but so I'm building the house and I'm building a barn, and my plan in the future is to put animals in the barn. I don't have anything, so I want to maximize what I can put on my property, whether it's roof or whether it's ground mounted, so that in the future, I'm prepared for whatever I want to build out in the future, and as you just said, not having to come back every 5 years and increase the size of the dish. So a company, I'm sure, knows how to deal with that, but I don't see why that has to be in an ordinance when any prudent company asks for those things. Okay, but it doesn't need to be to me, it's like saying, you want to see my credit report because I want to buy a car, and that's an ordinance before I can buy a car. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's not a good example, but my point is
No, it's not.
it's a terrible example, but all I'm trying to say is, we've talked about this before with some of our ordinances and that they're too complicated. So I don't understand so far why, other than that's what the companies, the professional companies use, which is fine, but that's between the homeowner and whatever company they use as of what data a professional company wants before they give you a proposal for something.
Yeah, I'll pose this question to you. Draw the line for me between a homeowner that has a lot of property where they buy enough solar panels to be a provider of electricity commercially versus a homeowner that's putting solar panels in to provide only enough for themselves. Draw that line for me.
Well, I can't.
Well, see,
And that's the problem, is where I agree with you, right, is, okay, so where did you have enough property so that you could be a huge provider?
Not a huge provider.
No.
There's large providers, then there's these providers, and there's providers, there's in-between categories that we haven't addressed yet, even as a planning commission 5 years ago, that we need to address. So something has to be here to manage a homeowner providing his usage to the next step, which is smaller than the large commercial ones that people are worried about. There's another step, and there's another step, and then there's the large commercial. So in here, there was 1,500 square feet, 3,000 square feet, right, for house, and then the house was farm. We knew those were obsolete because they didn't apply. They're not even being reached by people. So you can be silent on it and then wait for the complaint of someone that goes beyond providing only for their home because they've got a big set of solar stupid thing for someone to invest that much money to get too little of return for the return on investment. Doesn't make sense. I don't know that. That's why I didn't talk to the person who's in the solar company. But think about that. Where do you draw the line between what this is intended to do and the next type of solar situation, which is not large panels, there's another one in between. Two of them.
Like, in other words, the current ordinance allows a maximum of 3,000 square feet. And from what I've seen, the average is like around 800 to 1,200 square feet. So the ordinance is allowing them to have more panels than they need. And then they'll end up having a lot of excess energy.
But that is what solar. What, if I have excess energy and I'm selling it back to the power company, so what?
Well, it goes to what I just discussed.
Yeah.
The subcommittee has to come forward with recommendations on those in-betweens of, this is for our property only, and is sized accordingly. Then you got the large-scale commercial. Sometimes we need something in between to say, okay, we do allow this. And the situation you're talking about is possibly the next, the in-between step.
That is definitely a question for planning commission from a direction of like, do we want to put a number how we want to? But just going back to one of the questions that raised, what happens if the data is not available, if it's a brand new building? 4A talks about 12 consecutive months of electricity utility data, if available. But then they can, so if it's available, if it's not available, then we lean back, then we lean on B, which is an estimated annual energy production that will be generated by the solar engineer. So the 12 months of electricity usage is not mandatory. It's if it's available. And then to answer one of the comments we heard from Pat was also like, okay, you have a house which is 2,000 square feet and you size your solar panels for 2,000 square feet, and then they decided to reduce the size of the house, which is very uncommon, to 1,500 square feet. It doesn't require them to like report to us and then remove the panels. However, if they decide to add more to the house and then they want to add more panels, then they would come back to us to apply for another permit for the addition, and then we would ask them to provide us the estimated annual energy production so that they can substantiate the size requirement. And that can be provided. And that has happened, where they built a big barn and then they came and added another array of solar panels to come for the big barn. But that's just how the language is written, but then the question goes back to Planning Commission. What do you want to regulate?
I guess I'm still confused on why the old language didn't work when we weren't even reaching those maximums. Why couldn't those go back in?
So the old, I'm just gonna,
I
I haven't said anything about this yet, I'm just listening, but the, one of the problems is when you've got the old language and you've also got older technology. So the amount of solar panels that you needed back when this was put into place was much more than what it is now, because they're way more efficient. And so, I mean, the real bottom line is if you want people to be able to power their house, power their needs, stuff like that, but you don't want them to basically make a business out of generating electricity. And so you should have, you know, I think, I hate the word reasonable, I want to put that out there because what's reasonable to me may not be reasonable to you. So it's subjective to me. But when you talk about, it should just read that it's what's needed to basically generate enough electricity to meet the needs of the location. And if that location, if the needs change, then they can get something to add on, or you could even make a thing, needs of the location plus 10%, or, so there is some leeway for expansion if you need it. But it should be based on what are the general needs of the location. And it's all gonna be changing, because if you got a farm, you've got way more electricity that you need versus, you know, just a small house. So,
Then are we covered in here, I'm jumping ahead, but on future needs?
Yeah, they just have to provide an estimate and then apply for the permit.
Okay, so we're comfortable with future needs.
And I think we're not even saying that we don't necessarily want to disallow businesses, but they might have different regulations if they're going to be a bigger panel, like we have the large scale now. And like Paul was talking about the intermediate. So there might be, if we want to allow those, there might be different criteria for those than a
business is a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Right, so we're not saying we're disallowing that, but this is for
I mean,
residences
farms are
and
technically
farmers.
a business.
Yeah, but this is for,
But it's farming, it's
Yeah.
its own thing.
if you look at the definition too, maybe that helps. It's on the last page. It says, on page 26, 49, a small-scale solar system is an accessory structure intended primarily to reduce utility power consumption on the subject site generating electricity for permitted primary or accessory uses or buildings located on the same parcel.
Right.
So that's the focus here.
Has any thought been put into this on how you're gonna regulate whether it's adequate or not, whether it's excessive or not?
Well, that was my point.
I think
if
that
I-
unless if you're not gonna control it or police it, it doesn't make sense to me anyway.
I think Kay did some good research, like you said, Kay's good at research. She looked at Linden and Dexter.
Yeah.
She bought samples of ordinances from Linden Township and Dexter Township, and then I looked at a couple others after that. Most of the townships, not communities, not just townships, are moving away from setting a number, and they are putting it based on what's necessary. And I think I agree with Jeff. We can remove the word reasonably and still achieve what we're trying to achieve. So the goal is that the maximum surface area shall not exceed the area necessary to generate electricity for the permitted for primary and accessory uses. That's the goal here. That
Why
we,
don't we just say that?
that's what we said. We just took the word reasonably away, and
Yeah.
the remaining is already in the language.
Yeah, I think
That
it's
was, yeah, that's exactly what we said.
Yeah.
We took away the 3,000 square feet, and then we said, if you look at D, the maximum surface area of all solar panels shall not exceed the area necessary to generate. That's what we said.
And power totally changes, we all know that, I mean, based on who's in the house.
Right.
So you could come in and say, let's say you have 16 acres right now in your house, or you're working, you know, a lot of
It does
people.
have 16
Yeah,
acres.
I know. A lot of people after COVID are now, you know, they're working from home at times. So the power generation that people are putting out fluctuates based on that, and you could have something like you have all these kids in the house, and then they all graduate and move away, and now your history that you needed back then, you're gonna be generating extra electricity, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's just gonna happen, so there has to be some leeway with that. And that is, you know, what is reasonable for a house to generate plus whatever.
It's
What do you
necessary.
wanna generate?
What's necessary, yeah. I think taking the word reasonably out of it encompasses that.
Yeah,
Sorry, we spent a lot of time on the first page.
unreasonable.
So should we, the old ordinance, this section on the old ordinance was ground mounted only. Now the new statement is ground mounted and structure mounted,
Yeah, all,
all.
right.
So before, they could put panels all over the roof advise them to use it as necessary to
Right.
power the house or fire.
Yes.
But I understand that.
Yeah.
So there's a change there too.
I'm gonna use another bad analogy. Being a car guy, you can never have too much horsepower. And if I were putting a solar system in, I'd double the capacity just to make sure.
And that's exactly what people were concerned about when we wrote this before, was they wanted to understand what would, I mean, is there any limit, or can people just do it any size? Now, it is really expensive, so
I know.
it's unlikely that people are just gonna build something monstrous,
If you
but
look across Europe River Drive at the guy in Barton Hills that has the entire south-facing roof covered. And I guarantee, there must be, you know, the panels are about that size, the residential panels. He's gotta have 80 of them up on the roof. I mean, it's covered. Is that reasonable?
well, we took that word out
I
already.
know.
That's not our code.
No, it's not our township.
Depends what he's doing, maybe he's Bitcoin mining in there.
Ah, there you go.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Can we move on? Anything on page 22? I did not have any comments on 22. But you guys who have drafted this thing.
Well, we
Oh, no, I
did,
just-
but we did have comments on 22, because are we keeping that bill thing in the ordinance, or just letting that be between the homeowner, in other words, between the homeowner and the construction company?
Which one, George? F.
I'm sorry, F4, F4,
4A.
okay. Because Jeff, everything you said, that right there, as far as I'm concerned, is the ordinance. In other words, everything you said is completely correct. So based on what you said, 4A and 4B can be exact.
Well, I think you could keep B, but I mean, just an estimate, but they're gonna put in an estimate or give you an idea of what how many watts or how much stuff that it's gonna generate.
Right.
They're gonna do that anyways, and give you an idea of it. But the 12 months of billing, I mean, I think that goes to your standing,
That's a little
George,
over.
of you're somebody new, you're building a new house, you're not gonna have it, you're gonna need an estimate. So just get an estimate. They're gonna do an estimate anyways.
But why are we,
Yeah,
I think that's
we
overreach.
are educated
To
in
George's
that
comment, I
field
think
to-
that's overreach for us to put in our ordinance that we're gonna tell you we want 12 months of bill. That's an engineering issue,
No,
not
we
our
don't
issue
need 12 months of billing.
at all. We're not,
I don't think so.
Sri doesn't look confident.
Um,
No, but I'm serious. In our ordinance, we wanna see evidence of 12 months of bills. Even though you sat down with the engineer to size a system for your needs. Why are we in the middle of that?
We're giving us the estimated energy production. What does that mean to us?
I don't know. I don't think we should be,
Listening to her. She's the one that has
yeah.
provided her permit, so.
I think it's not a deal breaker if we get rid of A. B is also, I think just having a B, it's more like, you know, if, I'm trying to find an analogy because you've been speaking in analogy. It's like saying that I need a 7-seater versus a 4-seater. Why? Why do you need a 7-seater?
Well, like George said though,
Just holding them accountable, but
a B, I think makes sense because you're into, we're gonna size it with the engineer to fit the needs.
that's what I'm saying. Removing A, it's fine, but B,
No, I said remove it.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's fine.
Okay.
And then also, the Public Act 235 also puts a limit on how much eligible participant generation capacity. So DTE also has a cap on how much the
Right,
size of
which
it.
their estimate should be telling you how many megawatts or whatever it's gonna be putting out.
Right,
So you're gonna be able to look at that and reference, and there'll be certain things like, okay, a normal house, and I'm going off the
Right,
top of my head, I have no idea.
right.
But, you know, like a normal house is 5 megawatts and somebody submits 100. Okay, why do you need it?
So,
Right.
so.
We got grow lamps in the basement.
Yeah,
So I think I only put those two there because I asked her, what do you use to size your system? And then she gave me those two and then I put it in there. But I think
But I'm, okay.
we don't need
We
it.
agree
I
to
think,
that,
I think
but
looks
what-
like,
my question mark from prior to this meeting was actually on B.
It was on.
It was on B, and the reason because is, you just look at my property as an example. Nobody in here has any idea what I spend on my DTE per month. And if they were to give me an estimate, DTE is shocked because they send me a thing every month thinking, because I'm at the crazy percentile for places my size, the estimate is way off the chart. DTE would never guess. I mean, I'm spending almost $900 a month, and that's keeping my house down at 62 degrees. Okay, and it's because of the animals and all this
That's
kind
why
of
you
stuff,
got
right?
up at 3:30 in the morning, you got up
But,
at
but, you
4:30.
know, but they would have no idea, an estimate would not even touch what DTE thinks I would spend on energy.
Sounds like your neighbor's tied in here.
Just the ice cream freezer.
The old freezer, yeah.
So, again, I'm just, I don't, you know, if I'm using Tom's, when I move into this township, if I'm brand new moving in here, and I wanna put a solar panel up, and I'm brand new moving in, and I've just been through 100 closing documents at the bank, and I wanna put in a solar field, can I have something that's easy to read? I mean, that's, you know, again, keep it simple.
that's something that document is something, I'm not trying to counter or anything, I'm just trying to put points forward so that I want to make sure you understand what, what's out there. So please don't take it to me that, so that is something they said they have to do anyways to provide an estimate. So
That's between the
oh,
homeowner
that's
and the
fine.
construction.
I understand that. If the planning commission decides to take the whole thing away, that's fine, less work for me, less one document less to review. But it goes back to the question Tom raised in the beginning when he said a maximum surface area that says that's reasonably necessary. Even if you take away the word reasonably, that's necessary to generate. And then you asked me, how do we determine what's necessary? And then I said the answer to that question was F4.
Right.
And if you take away all of F4, that's fine. If that's what the planning commission wants to, that's fine. But then what would that mean for your question you raised?
I know it's an issue.
So
It
that's
goes
all I
back to
wanted
the
to point.
subcommittee to figure
Like,
that out.
the whole
Well,
thing started with that question, and then now we're eliminating the answer. Now we're moving towards, the planning commission's moving towards eliminating that requirement. Do we care? If the PC doesn't care, then that's fine. Then we should just say necessary to generate as determined by the solar engineer. So that at least we say, how do you,
Is it gonna, I'm just using a what if. So, like George said, I'm moving into the township, and I'm gonna build a house, and I want to include solar. When you get that permit request for the home, does that solar permit come with it? It's a complimentary piece of documentation. So at that point,
hypothetically,
It should.
yes.
so I'm just using new to George's point. Do you need more at that point to adequately define and enforce what's going in under new construction? Retrofit is a whole different animal. I'm just talking to George. To make it simple. So if you're getting that from the engineer who's building the house and the solar system, where do you go from there to enforce it better, more? You can't, at that point, should you have any, to George's point, should you have any say at that point?
If the ordinance is written that you're leaving that between, the solar company and the resident, all I'm saying is we should just say that we're not regulating maximum surface area, we're just saying that, the required surface area is determined by the solar engineer. So we're not setting minimum or maximum at that point. I'll only ask for information.
Pardon?
We were setting, we took maximum.
Right.
Right, so that's,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we are setting maximum by saying you can only have this much,
Yeah.
what's necessary. so we kind of are. But then if you don't want to regulate surface area, then we don't have to say anything about surface area.
I just like the estimate too for a baseline. And that's one of the things, like if you get an estimate, and to your point, George, the DTE wouldn't have guessed that you're using that much, but neither would these people. So if you get an estimate, they're gonna come in and you're gonna find out it's wrong and you're gonna say, hey, listen, I gotta fix this. But the bottom line is somebody can come in, not give an idea of what they want in there or an idea of what this is. And the next thing you know, over time, they expand it without getting any kind of permits. And come back and say, well, I had a permit for this. Well, you had a permit for this much. Now, all of a sudden, every building has solar panels on it or something. That kind of thing, when people expand it, you have a baseline of what it was supposed to be. That's all this is.
I'm good with that. I understand the baseline, that makes sense.
If I were to install solar, I might be the one customer in this township that might have 3,000.
More horsepower. You know, when you turn on it,
Oh, dude.
when you turn on those old fluorescent lamps that start up, those angels suck it right out of it.
And they're LED lamps too, it's crazy. Anyway.
Oh, well.
Your animals are living in like.
Oh, bro, you
They
have
can
no
take the
idea.
cold.
George's place is like the Griswolds on Christmas.
Okay, I'm sorry, we've been having a very deep discussion. Where are we today?
Okay, yeah, I know where we are. So we're on page 2.
We're on
Page 2 to 4
Page
is where we
2,
were.
So
F4.
do we agree?
F4.
Do we agree to remove A and keep B, or
I-
are we still talking?
I would remove A and keep B.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
So we
Let's
were,
just get a baseline.
we were at D.
Correct.
I think we should, the next step would be E. We only did one part of F, but we didn't do the whole F.
So where are we now?
E.
Back
Oh,
on
back
page
to
1.
E.
Page 1,
Oh, how did we get to page 2?
I thought nobody else had any
Because
pages.
the D,
That's what
I
I.
thought we flipped the
Oh,
page.
I
Yeah,
don't have any
yeah.
comments.
no, they, okay, if you had no comments, then we are at G.
I thought we were.
Um,
We're on
Okay,
G.
you're good with F2, that talks about the
Yeah.
screening?
Yeah, except for remove reasonably on 4.
Yeah.
Right, but number 2, F2, that talks about what information we are asking for to justify screening. Are we good with that?
You can ask. It says ask.
So the F2 screening topic, we might as well, because there's another screening
We'll
location.
come back to it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, G then, location restrictions. So what changed here is that the current standards is saying that you cannot have solar systems between the dwelling and the house in the front yard. And the exceptions that are in the current standards are little restrictive, and then it was hard for me to enforce in a couple of places. So I spoke with the review team, and then I proposed a little alternative which achieves the same purpose, but with standards I can ask for.
Subcommittee.
So 25%, that seems like a really, really high bar for, would reduce the minimum required output. Where did that 25% number come from?
I knew you were going to ask, that's just a
Yeah.
placeholder.
Yeah.
But that's up for discussion. If you feel like you don't want, the planning commission doesn't want to provide the reduced output, then you guys can consider just removing that whole.
I think it'd be hard to
Yeah.
monitor or regulate.
That was my.
I think it's hard.
So she did, right, so the easy, I'm okay with that. If we do want to, there are ways to regulate, but removing it is definitely easy, so.
So we're removing 25%.
So we're removing the sentence from "and"
Yeah.
to the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Constraints, period, right?
Right.
yeah.
I also wanted to indicate that the existing ordinance was a little bit more partial towards rooftop solar systems. But then the revised draft that the meeting worked on, it treats both them equally. Like there's no one preferred over the other, as long as the screening and all the other requirements are met.
I'd like to leave the options open to the homeowner.
Yes.
And then we just, because ground mounted is different than roof mounted, there's screening for one and not for the other. But exactly what they want or need, they determine.
Right.
Whatever that is.
So we're on to H.
Yes.
I would eliminate incidental,
Yeah.
Okay.
Got that word.
just make it excess.
In this, we also had that sentence that says, the last one, solar energy system shall not be sized for the purpose of generating excess electricity or commercial resale or off-site use. So that covers the concern.
No.
Yep. Everybody okay with H then, with that change?
Yes.
I, for building requirements, we had a discussion earlier, it's not gonna pull out because the light bulbs are big enough.
Yeah, I did have something for I though. So in our current ordinance, so in the second sentence, small solar energy systems mounted on buildings. And here it's been added that are visible from the street shall be designed and mounted to match the shape, proportions and slope of the facade. In our current one, we don't say only the ones that are visible, we say all shall be designed and mounted to match the shape. So I think that's easier than, because things can change.
Not in case, just all.
So remove and that are visible from the street or road. Just those that are mounted on buildings shall be designed and mounted to match the shape, proportions, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Easier,
Easier. I like that.
and things change.
Then I don't have to worry about regulating is it visible or not.
Yeah, can someone see it or not, who cares?
Yes. I like that.
I have a question in that section, when I was reading this, sort of Joyce's comment about, is it easy to read and understand? It sounded in some ways like it's duplicating what we said in B2 and D.
The only thing it's back to be.
Because, why?
Beware.
Well, I just wonder if it's
Can you
misplaced.
combine them? Can you
Well,
put this
that's-
with, yeah.
And that's where I was coming from. We're talking about building restriction, conditions, whatever, in B, but they're also here,
I think
a different portion of them. The K, that's where I was going with K. Should those two be together
Or reference.
or reference? Because
Yeah.
if I were reading this first time through, I'd be confused. I'd go, well, wait a minute, I just read that back there, but, oh, wait a minute, they got another thing over there.
Or just say as per B2.
Or as per
What,
B2,
yeah,
yeah.
I would, anytime we're doing
I
that.
think I can just
I would
move
reference.
I to be 2E.
Well, that's where I was
Yeah,
thinking,
that's easy.
yeah.
That's easy.
So move I to B2.
Instead of having to
Yeah.
reference it.
I like that.
Move it,
Yeah.
move it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Move to B2.
Hey, see, I'm good for something. Oh, wonderful. Did you find another period that E?
I didn't even say anything about the and that needs to be capitalized on E1.
We're gonna see another draft.
That's what I figured.
I
Yeah,
noted
Paul.
those, we'll deal with
So,
Okay.
this is a matter of grammar, so it says, in case of a roof mounted, in case of a roof mounted, in the case of a
Oh.
those.
stick of the.
Yeah,
Then we're gonna be renumbers too.
yes.
So it would be 2B to E.
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 Yep.
Capital B, 2, and then small b.
J. It's sort of obvious, but you probably have to state it.
Yeah.
K, anybody have comments? K, on K, K. this is one of those, how do we regulate that?
Minimize.
So it's interesting because they say that solar panels don't have much glare,
Right,
but all the solar ordinances have this in it.
no,
I don't know if you're reading about large scale, solar panels don't have glare, or small scale.
Oh, maybe that's it.
What are you reading?
I don't know.
We can
Maybe
ask
that's it.
Linda.
Yeah,
Like,
we should
like,
ask
like,
Linda.
make sure about-
Because all the small scale ones say this.
can you guys review it before we come back? And maybe it's a lawyer question, you know, maybe there's something that somebody, you know, drove off the road and hit a tree and died, and they went, well, I looked at that solar
Well,
panel, the sun was,
I think it's very similar to the lighting discussion.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, if, it depends on where you're at. If you're a neighbor and all of a sudden your house starts getting lit up,
could be,
it's a different story.
yeah, yeah.
There's other issues with that. What if you weren't a neighbor, but now you bought a property and built a house there and it was fine before?
So we're not gonna dark party,
So, yeah,
or black spray paint in the middle of
no.
the night. Okay, on to L, screening.
So this is what actually prompted the whole amendment following the ZBA discussion.
Okay,
The comment, the recommendation was made to allow waivers for screening requirements by planning commission as opposed to a hardship variance that goes to ZBA,
right,
because it just doesn't make sense. And just a quick fun note, the 5185Z road that went to ZBA, they combined the properties and were able to install solar panels without screening, because the second property was at a higher grade.
oh,
They were, that option was provided to them before they went to ZBA. They wanted to try ZBA first before they take option B.
We got mixed emotions on screening in general.
yeah, me too.
Just, I mean, I get the idea of screening, I understand why we would do screening. The bottom line is follow-up on screening. So let's say that somebody does, a property owner does have hedges or something put in, and then the next property owner comes in and takes them out, or they die.
Yeah.
I mean, this is always a thing of,
That came up at St. Joe's with the,
Yeah.
with the
That's what I was
barriers,
gonna
and
say.
a couple
Yeah.
trees died,
And-
and, you know, how long do you have to maintain that berm for lighting and?
and much to the residents' point tonight, you don't have screening on roofs, you can see them, what's the difference? I mean, we have it
Well,
where you
I
can't be in
think-
front of houses already.
Well, but it comes from the master plan. You know, the discussion of screening and,
Sure.
not screening per se, okay, but the rural character and green and all that kind of stuff.
So my specific question, and I don't remember, when we did the master plan studies, I think we had two of them, right, back in the day. And that's where the township residents are in favor of alternative energy. That was right. My question to that, and I don't recall, is as a part of those comments, was screening brought up?
No, I remember that residents came to our planning commission meetings when we were reviewing the ordinance. And some people didn't care about screening, and some people cared a lot about screening. And there were quite a few people for both. So it was not in the master plan surveys. They were supported renewable energy, but the whole screening question was about the ordinances.
So as I recall, when we first put this screening ordinance in place, when we did it, we had a lot of discussion about screening, and it was almost a 50-50 split on the planning commission as to yes or no for the screening at that time. My only comment, a comment to add, not my only comment, but a comment I can say now is that from when those studies were done, things have changed now. I mean, that's been 5 or 6 years down the road now since the ordinance was put in place. And what I gather is that people are still in favor of alternative energy, but times have changed now. And it's not here yet, but one of my notes had, going back to years ago, when the Supreme Court got involved with satellite dishes. So when satellite dishes first came out, they were heavily regulated by HOAs and municipalities. Supreme Court said, nope. It's a part, I think it was telecommunication or something, but don't quote me on that one. But the Supreme Court said you can put a satellite dish anywhere you want to on your property. Because back in the day when they first came out, because they were new, nobody wanted it in the front of the house. They wanted it in back. Satellite companies said, well, that's impossible to get that customer service. You need to put it in front. That's why the Supreme Court got involved, okay? That's obvious. This is not in front of the Supreme Court. What I'm saying is times have changed. And I don't want to rush to judgment or rush to decisions, but I suspect that our conversation, as it was last time, is going to be kind of in depth and take a while pertaining to screening. That's my at this point.
Well, you know, the one good thing that's gonna happen with this is that we're gonna have a public hearing. And I'm like you, I'm very torn on this, but on the other hand, my default would be to leave it in, and then at the public hearing, listen to more than, no offense to you guys, to one or two comments, and see if our friendly neighbors are that concerned. Because I'm sure it'll show up, you know, whoever the, who's the person on the anonymous member, posts all the time to the Webster Township thing. It's like, so you want to be anonymous. Somebody's going to put it out there and it's going to be, hey, they're going to put trees in front of my house and make me put up $1,000, you know, orchards. Are we going to get blowback? Are we going to get people here to really get, no offense to you guys, more input on that?
Hard to say.
I know.
Hard to say. Like I said, I just had mixed emotions on it, because you can see it on the roofs.
Yeah.
And you can drive around, and there's actually a lot of solar out there that's not screened.
Yeah.
That, I mean, people either didn't put in for a permit or whatnot.
Well, see, I'm sort of like George, like, you know, whether it's the big dishes or the ones up on the roofs,
Yeah.
now they're normal, and so, quite frankly, I don't even notice the ground-based stuff. It's like, oh, that guy's got a solar array. Right, well, but you drive, no, but I don't know what township it is, but if you drive up Zeeb Road, or if you're coming south on Zeeb Road, it's easy to see. Right before you get to the river, there's a guy on the right-hand side with a log cabinish kind of thing. He started with a small, maybe 8 or 10 panels, and all of a sudden it's gotten huge, extremely visible.
Where is this?
About halfway down the hill from Miller down to the bridge.
Which
It's
side?
on the right-hand
Inside
side.
township.
Is it right next to the road, Park Road?
No,
Other
no,
side?
no,
you're
no.
on the other side.
Yeah, wrong side. But I don't even notice it, and I drive that fairly rarely. It's my way into town.
Is it something where only if you, so what about the idea, well, no screening's required unless you make an argument that you have to put it in your front yard?
Well,
And
but
then-
that's what we're talking about, setbacks and stuff, you know, yes, it's not supposed to be in the front yard, yes, you need a setback, you know, property line from your neighbor, so you're not having somebody take their shotgun to it. If we've got those restrictions in there, or conditions,
Well, that's what I say, do we need screening done? If it's in the backyard
yeah,
or the side yard,
or if you're at a farm, I mean, it's
Yeah.
way over there.
yeah.
Maybe on lot size, depending on what size of lot, but yes, if you're a large acre lot, who cares?
Or that's what the
How
many
waivers for,
panels?
that's what the waivers are for,
How
so
many panels do you need?
maybe we look at the conditions for the waivers.
You just use an example.
Right.
Because I know, well, I know where Schlosser's
That's
place
how-
is, I drive about, I know where your place is, your next door neighbors, I've been out there for turkeys
I've
over
never
the years.
seen solar panels. I can see his house, I can see his barn, but I've never noticed the solar panels.
Just say something out of order, that George didn't know my solar panels were installed for about 6 months.
Take another. population of this township live? In 50 acres?
No.
No,
Or they live in 2 acres, 1 acre?
Yep.
So that's why screening is in there for them. And the planning commission made a mistake when they wrote this about large farms. And the person who was in the ZBA is a perfect case. Why should you screen something that's
Yeah.
being seen by my property anyway? So they came forward just for that. So now to take it and totally throw it away, you might start getting complaints about it. But you've got provisions in here for even someone that lives on a 2-acre lot can come in and say, hey, planning commission, this isn't intrusive to anybody. Why do I need to screen it? So I'm gonna go in one way or another. Just think about, you've got something in place. I don't know how many complaints you've gotten from subdivisions about solar panels. I know of complaints you've gotten from large farm owners that, why do I need to do this? We fixed that.
Yeah.
So, think about that before you move forward and say, let's toss it. And I won't go either way, I'm just throwing it out for you. We've taken care of the issue. You want to tread in the water where, hey, we create another issue, now we've got the majority of this township may not like what we did.
Like you mentioned, that I heard about that too, that when the planning commission considered it last time, there were a lot of people who showed for screening and not for screening. So I think I would recommend maybe trying to find a happy medium, at the same time encouraging, because I also echoed the same concerns Jeff mentioned in my first memo that because we didn't have any standards to the minimum size and placements, people just planted like a 1 foot or a 2 foot evergreen, and then by the time we went back, I only noticed this because one, they applied for panels, they put up some random screening, and then they applied for extension, adding to those panels, and then when I went for staking inspection, I realized the trees that were supposed to be planted and matured by now, they de-raked them. So that's why the follow-up inspection was added, but depending on where the planning commission land with screening, we can remove, revise the standards accordingly.
so Paul, by putting in the waiver, and I remember when we talked about that, creates an opportunity to not do screening if the conditions don't require it, right?
Absolutely, that's why it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So should we at least go through those waiver requirements and see what we think of them? Or have people looked at them? Because that was a
Well, I thought
key
they were
part.
okay the way they were.
Yeah.
Again, I'm really torn on the issue with the waiver there. In my view, it doesn't require that anybody they gotta come in, they don't have to give us money, they don't have to go to ZBA, they just go, hey, here's a little drawing of my thing, it's over there, it's 3,000 feet from anything, and nobody's complaining, so we go fine.
I think that's not exactly what the waiver conditions are, if that's
Well,
how if nobody's complaining, it's fine, I don't think but if that's how you want it to be, we just need to revise them.
No, I'm just for generalizing,
Right.
not,
It is one of those things, one size does not fit all.
no,
So,
right?
And that's the whole intent.
I think my recommendation then is if you guys are amenable to it, is to leave it in, since we have the waiver, bring back a draft based on our comments tonight, and then at the public hearing,
we'll see what we get.
we'll see what we get. Are you all agreeable to that?
Right.
I still question the whole 7 tiers in B, because that's kind of an arbitrary,
B. Oh, yeah.
B1B, sorry, the 80-20%, I mean, how do you figure that out?
So the 80% came from the landscape section. We always use that number when we're talking about screening non-residential uses, so it's there. It's there in the ordinance, which we just, the only thing that's been revised is that how to measure the 80% opacity is kind of the current ordinance doesn't give us much guidance, so we just said 80% opacity means only 20% is visible.
Subjective.
Right, subjective. I mean, we're not going there with a grid paper and then identifying that, but it's just like saying, you know.
Makes sense? Because we got a way to move forward a little bit.
It's better than it was. It's had something before where 20% of the panels could be unscreened or something like that. Remember that? That's how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than it was. Because now it reflects what we require for landscape ordinance and developments.
Right. Okay. We got, pardon me?
We still have another page.
Yeah, I know.
But hold on, I'm going back, Kate mentioned something here early on about backyard and no screening at all for backyards. Did we talk about that?
So I think we said, we're not gonna eliminate the screening at all, we're gonna present it with the waiver. So this says you can get a waiver if you can make an argument that you don't need the screening.
Okay, so my question is, does the waiver simply, your waiver request have to simply say it's in my backyard?
Yeah,
It
give us a
doesn't
little
right now,
measure or
that's
something, get
not-
our ruler and
Well,
go.
no, so I'm
That's not what the criteria here say.
The question is, because, and again, I'm going backwards, but Kay, how you articulated that here a little while ago did make sense about talking about the potential for backyards not having to have screening, period.
But I thought what we just reached was because there was so much opinion about both options that we didn't want to change it right now. Because there were many people with strong feelings about yes and many with no, that if we put in this waiver option, then we can get feedback and then talk about it further. Rather than just saying, we're taking it out.
I just couldn't
Yeah.
remember where we landed,
Yeah.
based on your
We
comment.
had that discussion 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Your current backyard is different than the development person's
Mhm.
backyard. Their backyard is somebody else's
I
backyard.
don't even know what my backyard is, but,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
It's his front yard.
It's 3 months of insulation on your house.
yeah, yes.
Okay. On to page 25, please.
So are we talking about batteries?
That's the first topic.
Yeah. So I feel that there should be building codes or fire regulations about where you can put batteries, like a Tesla Powerwall. And on the Tesla Powerwall site, they recommend a basement or a garage, if that's the kind of battery they're using. So I don't feel that and I don't know about the rest of you, can assess where the battery should be. I think we should find some other regulations that tell us.
Well, you heard the fire marshal, we called him.
Yeah.
Like this.
I would want something in writing from him then, to say.
You won't get it.
So what did he say? What,
Yeah, we at least said,
Well,
Yeah, or all,
he did not, he wasn't liking having battery storage as a safety item in your building. They said you can't do anything about it, people will do it, because you can't do anything about that. The language here comes from what your solar person recommended, right, Sri?
Yes,
It's new
so,
to
yeah.
us.
She did indicate that the battery storage is becoming very popular, and then she also indicated that some communities are requiring them to be in detached structures and prohibiting them in garages and attached structures. And she said it's not uncommon, and the way they would accommodate that is they would build a structure, a small structure, that just enough to host the batteries outside. And the communities requiring them to be outside in detached structures is not too restrictive and something that they can accommodate, is what she said. So it comes down to what you want for your community.
Well, but if we have somebody building another structure, then we're adding cost to the system.
It's not like a shed or a barn, they're just building, like, just to enclose the batteries.
I know.
but why would we, what expertise do we have to say we should have them do that? So in urban areas, they're allowing the batteries in basements and garages. So what is our rationale for saying that we require something more? I don't know.
Well, not only that, and when you're talking about roof-based solar, it is in basements and garages. That's generally
That's where they put it.
the detached stuff.
Yeah, the feed.
That's one thing, but when it's on the house, they don't run the batteries outside. They're always in the garage or the basement.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is no matter what, when you have a large battery, depending upon what it is, it's a fire hazard. But so is my can of gas that's sitting in my garage.
It is.
Can't gas can be put out. Batteries can't be put out.
Right. Depends on what it is. I agree.
That's what, Fred Marshall raised that point.
Right, he said, if fire code has some restrictions on where they can be, but then he just expressed that, putting off a fire that comes from batteries, no. So it was a preference,
Is that where number 3 then came from?
not a preference, I would say, it's a safety
Yeah.
recommendation, but not a requirement.
So when the fire guy goes in here, he needs to know that battery's a different kind of fire than a gasoline fire.
Well, so what I have down here is industry standard. This is between the fire department, so it's not actually, the fire is on the fire department, and your insurance company. What I also have here is guns, ammo, and Teslas.
Yeah, well, I was gonna bring up
So
electric cars.
there was just one here a year ago, over here, I was in Loch Alpine, and because there was a fire on Heron River Drive, the thing burned down from a Tesla. I think it was 2 Teslas or something, anyway. Now, that was the craziest thing, watching the fire department cut through Loch Alpine, but you can't go but 10 miles an hour anyway, that was crazy. But the point there is, everybody has guns, ammo, and those that have Teslas create issues for the fire department. And there's no ordinance that says if I have guns and ammo or a Tesla, I gotta say that I have that. They show up to the fire and they deal with it at that time. So, based on industry standard, I do not think we need to do one thing about battery storage.
Not their location or,
Not where they're,
yeah.
not where they're stored. And the fire chief or fire inspector, whatever the guy is, I mean, he answered the question and that, yeah, they'd like to know, but they don't regulate it, they know this.
So,
Well-
sorry for my ignorance, but what does the county require people when they want to put in solar panels? Because don't they also have to get a county permit?
So the county just has building requirements, building code requirements, depending on whether it's in a garage or outside. So they don't have any restriction on where they have to be. Just depending on where they are, they have a different set of requirements they have to comply with. We did indicate that. I think if the planning commission wants to simplify it, we could say that all battery storage systems shall comply with all applicable building code requirements. But then I would probably keep number 3, that's in our existing ordinance, that signage must be provided with disconnection procedures for emergency responders.
Why?
That's,
That's the question, why?
I can give you a gun answer to that one.
Yeah, why?
Because when we were riding bikes, many of our guys carried before carry became. And when we talked to safety people and fire people, they would not touch a downed biker until the firearm was secured. So Paul would let me know that he's carrying so that if he goes down, I can tell the first responder that there's a gun on the site before he goes over to touch Paul. And I think that's the same thing that applies here. If I'm going into a building for our safety personnel's needs, I think I would want to know that there's ammo that's about to go off. And I understand.
Well, yeah, but I want to know that there's a Tesla in the garage too.
Yeah.
But what's the difference?
So in our master plan, we need to have fire boxes or call boxes on every household.
Apparently. Because you never know when a Tesla's going to go in there.
Just a checklist, Tesla, bullets. Or any other chemical that,
Well, I really like whatever you said on the building code.
fertilizer, diesel.
Yeah.
Exists.
Yeah. Fireworks. Good point.
Is that
Right,
okay?
I think the recommendations in the draft is just to prompt a discussion. And then planning commission can always decide whether to ease the standard or agree with it, so.
I think meeting the build, from my perspective, meeting the building code is adequate, but I do like 3, even though you don't. Can't agree on everything. By the way, when you see the picture of his father, he looks exactly like
They look identical, yeah.
him. Yeah.
Really?
He looks handsome.
But I did agree with you on that. See? So that's what we're doing on AM? Is that the discussion on it? Okay.
And is,
AM batteries.
right,
That with no restriction on where they can be placed as long as they comply with building code. And keep 3. Should we keep 1 to 1, except for the blue and underline, the black part is all existing language? Placed in a secure container or enclosure.
No.
We don't have to, I guess,
That's the
that's
whole
covered in building
conversation.
code.
No.
That's the conversation.
That's covered, no, I thought the conversation was the detached structure, but I'm okay with removing 1 because that's covered in the building code. They require that they're placed in secure
Right.
containers.
for removing 1 and 2, we're putting in 3 and adding all battery storage will comply with building code.
Right. And 3 will become
Ooh,
1.
that was good, Martha. Good job.
Yeah.
Give her a microphone, too. And maintenance. I have a comment about this, and it applies to removal and abandoned solar systems. I don't know how to enforce any of that.
So,
And I'm serious, like, how do I know it's abandoned? How do I know it's not maintained? If, I'm gonna use the
From all the
farm.
wires hanging off it, swinging.
No, but to George's point, if I'm on a farm and it's over there, and like Pat said, it's an underground cable running from the things, if it's there, am I gonna walk up to the door and go, I'd like to see your wires and make sure they're still working? I mean, I think that gets back to the contractor issue and the use issue now, in terms of property sales. But that's a realty thing, again, that's not us, right?
It's like blight, right, or?
Yeah.
I think some standards are for reactive enforcement, they're not proactive enforcement.
But who's gonna say it's not?
Well, if they got
We're
trees
getting back-
growing up around it, it's not active. I mean,
Yeah, so-
there's
so-
obvious things that.
So what do you do then?
Make them remove it.
There is a definition for abandoned solar and energy system.
Right, I get it.
It's the same thing as somebody's car's not running.
If it's in his garage, I don't know that.
Well, how many cars you got laying around in somebody's front yard that's
Yeah.
got weeds around it? So
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
comment with this was for N2, it was a question mark. And that was simply because trash, debris, and excessive weeds. Well, we think we know what trash, we think we know what debris is, but excessive weeds, again, I haven't used this in probably a couple of years now, but if you look at the city of Ann Arbor, what the city of Ann Arbor what some people would call excessive weeds, the city of Ann Arbor would call that nature.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, even they've come down on some of the
So,
nature.
so they do, but it's gotta be a lot. I've seen some craziness there, right? Okay? But again, is that really necessary? And then for O, all I have is enforceable.
Yeah.
And within 6 months, how the heck you gonna know that? You might know it 6 years later or 2 years later, but within 6 months, that's not gonna happen.
I think for O, I would say if we get a complaint And then we go and where we are, if we are able to verify the violation, then we say, hey, this was supposed to be gone 2 months ago, so please remove it.
But wouldn't that be blight?
We don't have a blight ordinance. The nuisance ordinance doesn't have provisions for blight.
Oh, that's right. Maybe we should write
Something for discussion.
that. Yeah,
But again, it's difficult to enforce all that. I mean, that's,
that's where I'm
and
sort of.
most of the time, the
that.
stuff's never enforced unless it's a complaint.
Well, that's our policy for township.
Right.
Nobody goes around looking for problems, it's all made complaints.
Everybody's so afraid that
If somebody comes to the zoning enforcement officer with a complaint,
Yep.
and it's not in here,
they can't do
you
anything.
can't do anything.
I know, I
So,
agree.
Do you not want something in here for him to use to enforce? Take it out then.
But if it's in here, you have to make it enforceable.
So
Well,
that's,
and that's
You have to be succinct, you have to be
policy,
good
is
about
my
it.
neighborhood complaint.
No, and I agree. I mean, that's why some of it needs to stay, for sure.
And this is not new, this is in the current
Yeah, it was in the other one.
The other thing too, there might be, I don't know what they do for time of sales, with, the county. Like if they come out, if they look at any of that stuff, do you know?
No, I can check. I know they have time of sale inspections for well and septic. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about building.
That'd be a good question to ask them, like, do you, if somebody has solar, do you check to see if it's operational, if it's safe? That
or
kind
if
of
it's,
thing.
and if it meets the current building standard, if you put it in like we were talking with 10 years ago, what, do you put it in yourself? I mean, I did my own in my cabin.
Yeah, I don't think they're looking at that. I don't think
I
they
can
look
also
at that.
check with building if they have any requirements for abandoned solar energy systems.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they have, then they can.
So do we agree then that we're gonna leave this in there after a little bit of review with the county and come back in our next draft?
Hey, Sri, do you think your lady that you're talking to, the professional company person, is that a question you could ask them pertaining to, since they built it, right, how much does it take to remove it? I mean, destruction, demolition certainly does not cost as much as the construction of something, but if they happen to know that answer.
I'm pretty sure, I'll also check with the county because they do require demolition permits when any structure is being removed. For something, a permit has been issued and they want to remove it, they need to go to the county to get a demolition permit so that they can make sure that they're removing it properly, like they're not breaking it down with a hammer pieces and leaving it. So,
Another question I just thought of, now Victoria made me think of this now.
Roof.
You've got a roof system, don't use it anymore,
Right.
you know, many people take it down, put up a new roof. That is essentially now their roof, even though it's not functioning.
Part of it is for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
I think that it's reached its end of life.
I don't,
I
Well,
think
you know,
I'll just
that-
check
I've asked
the
the
county
installer
for
that
the
question
questions.
because,
Does it still function as a
yeah,
roof?
yeah. Because if I were a homeowner, I don't want to have that answered when I'm sitting at the kitchen table talking about whether you.
Well, to that, not what you're saying, but to your point though, this past weekend, literally, one of my barns, I do need a new roof. And I was thinking, solar.
Yeah.
If I just put a solar panel up, it would probably be the same cost as putting up a new roof.
Yeah, but the solar panels are mounted with screws through the roof, you still need the roof.
So-
No, I got my studs there.
No,
Sooner or later, we're gonna see shingles that are solar panels.
yeah,
That's true.
Sooner or later,
It's
you will.
true. You're gonna see us on a car, instead of having a sunroof, it's gonna be solar panels.
well, now there's solar panel boats, they don't even have motors in them, I'm serious.
Yeah.
The entire top of the catamaran is solar. Do we have marching orders for the revision to the draft, we okay?
Yep.
Okay.
I think once I'm able to get Wayne's
Pardon me?
appointment, I'll schedule a
Yeah.
meeting.
I have one more question. So Sri, the last one on here, and I did send you a note of this, with solar energy system, in the last sentence, it says, "The solar energy system is considered a structure. Solar energy system shall include the following." And all we have here is small solar energy system.
So the existing ordinance has small solar energy system and then large solar energy
That we're
system.
gonna add later when we get to it?
We decided not to change it, so it remains.
Oh,
To keep
Okay.
the large scale definition as it is.
Right, so-
Until we get to.
I think what I can do is I can add large scale and just leave it in black for reference.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. We got
Like what else? What's the
one item,
following?
where's the rest of the
Right.
items? Okay, all right, sorry.
Is there anything else in definitions at this point you want to review?
I just have a question. We all have added February 16th. Is that gonna go away and just say the ones that are changed, amended, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
Yes.
At all?
It's just showing that's what's in the current ordinance.
There's other definitions. But it's just general. There's not into any detail. But what she's talking about right here, see where the reference to February, it's just that general comment, so it'll be removed. Anything else in definitions, team? Great, thank you. I assume then we don't need to go through the clean draft because we're still, okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
We need a motion, or,
No, it would still be under discussion because we're bringing it back.
do we want to postpone the decision?
Yeah.
We don't need a motion, I think.
It says
I don't
old
think-
business.
It's still old business under the old.
Still business, but we kind of gave direction.
Right.
So approved.
Jeez. Goodness gracious.
I think did you say you're gonna bring cookies to the next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah, no kidding.
I need some of the mints down there.
It's not the same.
God's sakes.
That's what I was
You want peppermint or do you want wintergreen?
Actually, Connie, where them cookies at? You're supposed to bring some cookies to this meeting.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What turn you on?
Jeez. Okay. On to the annual report. I did the best I could to try to collect it. I'm gonna ask this for the future. If you send me comments, try to send one time instead of like, and in the same format as they are here. Because man of days, I had paper everywhere trying to figure out. Thank God Sri from her report went back and went, yes, no, yes, no. So, as far as I can determine, with Sri's help, we got this thing in a good draft place, except for the goals for 2026, which we have not agreed to yet. Now, as you guys look through this, did you see anything that we need to revise, change, or update? Yes, ma'am.
On page 2 of 5, page 32.
205.
205, where it says goals for 2025 and then goals status update.
Right.
I like the way the updates are very succinct, but it's a little bit confusing for the following reason. Under the first section, so we had 5 goals for 2025,
Yep.
and in the first section there are 4, not
Just
5.
need to add the fifth one.
And the first,
Oh.
but also the first one is not one of the goals that we had in 2025. It's something else. And the second
Right
one,
out of my- Came out right out of my report.
so I asked for your annual report.
It's in the copy that I had that I submitted to the board.
This is what, the last page
Oh,
of the report that you signed last year, and there's 5
oh, they're
here.
in a different order.
And also, that's not one of them.
Oh, you're right.
So I know you have a lot of papers, but, and then
Not a problem.
the same thing for the next section. They're not in the same order as the first section, and the first one is not one of the 2025 goals. You know, in the status update? In the
Yeah.
status update, number 1,
Oh.
accessory structures was not from 2025.
Well, hey, it's been a tough week, you know.
Yeah, no, and the others, I think you just need to.
Reorder.
Reorder them,
Yep.
yeah.
Can do.
And then you got it.
And what about our goals for 2026? On page 5 of 5. Thank God for secretaries. Keeps me straight on stuff.
We usually have a goal that talks about we should complete the ones that are ongoing now.
Yep.
So we could have one like that and identify what the ones are. Because we got a really long list, but we aren't working on all of them right this minute. So we can have a goal like that.
We already did stormwater management.
So you like, and the goals, so
No,
at the
no,
end
I'm
of
talking about 26,
26 goals.
26 goals.
that are the end of the page.
So the goals for 26 listed here are actually the same ones we had in 25.
Right,
So he's asking us, what should we
What
put
should we
instead?
right.
Instead of that,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that was just cut and paste.
yeah.
But that's why it's highlighted in yellow, because I would like us to agree on our goals.
Yeah, so though that's an example of what we had last year, what
Right.
should we have this year?
Anybody got thoughts on what you would like to, I mean, collectively, it's not just Tom sitting here going, this is mine.
Page 35 now?
What?
Okay.
Yes.
I think you guys can look at the text amendment summary in the ZA report. If you're looking for ideas. The,
No, I'm not looking for ideas, I'm looking for the things to do now tonight, so we can get the report done and put in. So what are the goals collectively we want to have
For next year?
for 2026?
Yeah, so
This
that's
year.
so what I suggested is we usually have one goal that identifies which things are ongoing now that we want to complete, like 1615 groundwater, 12-110 small solar, and land division.
right, that's what I was
Those are the
referring to
three
the
things-
table
Those
in
are
the
the three
ZA.
things that I looked and said, we've already started them.
Right, okay.
So we usually have some sort of goal like that. And what
We'll
about
do
data
Data
centers?
storage.
Yeah,
And battery storage facility.
Data centers and battery storage, so we have something about that.
So we have to-
We're gonna have to do it, so we might as well put it in here.
it's gotta
do
be-
you want those separate?
They could be together, emerging uses, emerging land uses, data centers and battery storage facilities.
That's a good way to put it.
And then something about the master plan, you have a
Well,
timeline we're gonna talk about.
Actually, I had that in my first draft, yeah. I don't know how I understood it in the second.
Large solar.
Well, yeah, should we have large solar panels?
Let's put that in there, and that with the other emerging land
Right.
uses.
Well, I'm
Data
gonna
centers,
keep it
battery,
separate.
And, large-scale solar. So my feeling is, we haven't yet decided what we should do about large-scale solar, but we could put it on there to be able to
Well, it's
decide.
one of our topics, correct?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
something.
I think what I was trying to refer to is page 9 on your staff report that has all your ongoing text amendments,
Well,
that you can use that as a guide.
That's where I got these.
Right.
And
The
the
I'll
rest of
I'll
the
just put
PC.
in a general statement on complete ongoing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
we
it's
do.
easier for the board to consume. Because quite honestly, they don't really read it.
I think it's good for us.
don't read it?
How about this? In previous years, it's been very typical that the board has go, oh, thanks very much. Read what? Yeah, well, that's pretty much it.
But I think it can be helpful for us, because
No,
we have a very long list of things to do, and maybe it helps us choose, prioritize.
It's a requirement, you're fulfilling a requirement.
I know,
There you
that's
go.
right. Okay. One of the items that is not yet ongoing, but is land division.
Well, isn't it ongoing in that we already formed a team, we already met?
Yeah, it's listed under amendments in pipeline.
So,
Yeah, well, it's atypical from the, in my mind, it's atypical from the other ongoing things we have, because it's sort of a standalone kind of thing.
Oh, it's not a zoning ordinance.
Correct. So that's why I think it should be called out separately.
Okay.
Great. That's enough
That's
for
enough.
goals.
And then this change, there's the 2026 planning commission chair,
What?
there's the 2026 in the footer. Where you sign your name.
True.
Just want
Oh.
to draw those up.
Well, no, the report is being given by the chair who was there in
Oh,
2025.
good point, yes. Okay.
Okay, I will fix those things, and thank you very much for your input. It is always right. The next item is a little bit of a conundrum, and I'll tell you why. I have been deeply engrossed in this. There was actually a MTA webinar today. I don't know if anybody attended besides me. But a couple things came up in that surprised me. One that I had had in the back of my head, but it's like, duh. And that is, if our friends to the east of us, or Webster Township, or anybody else puts in, whether it's a large solar array, or a data center, we can do nothing about it. It can be 20 feet from Bonnie's house, as long as it's on the other side of the township line. That's a challenge, because we are not allowed, according to this lawyer, who gave us the presentation, we should not go to or initiate a conversation with those other townships and cities. We're all on our own out here in Never Never Land, which seems sort of backwards to me, not to work collectively. The other thing he brought up in that same vein is that no matter what we do, if enough of us in this area say no, the state and the federal government has every right to override us and put one in no matter what we say, which is different, but sort of the same that happened to Saline. So we say no, Dexter Township says no, Linden says no, Chelsea says no. Collectively, within a 50-mile radius, we all say no, and we're going to put one there because we want to. And we get shoved aside, because the state and federal overrides anything we do in this area. Which is like, oh crap. The third one was, and by naivete, and maybe yours, but mine was, that the board would initiate a moratorium, and then we would look at an ordinance. This lawyer brought up that the board should do a police ordinance ahead of time that is enforceable before we draft or have it for review our ordinance, which is a little different than, and that's back to my comment, you guys need to get busy, because he said that the police ordinance that the board, any board in the township board creates is the enforceable one if anything should go awry. Ours, ironically, he said, can be contested, but typically not the board's.
I'm not understanding your comment, because the planning commission can write an ordinance anytime.
Right.
We can start writing an ordinance, so you said the police ordinance can override our ordinance. I don't know.
No, he wants it, he suggested having it in place before ours,
For our what?
our ordinance.
Zoning
We
ordinance.
can write a zoning ordinance
Right.
anytime we want.
Right.
I still don't understand that
But
comment.
he suggested having the board's police ordinance in place.
As a, I don't understand.
I'm
but-
guessing,
They have to write one separately.
But you mean for a moratorium?
No,
What's the police ordinance do?
I don't know, you should get in touch with your lawyer.
so police ordinance is like, you know, how we have public nuisance and everything, so the adoption requirements for board, for a police ordinance are much quicker and faster than the process for amending and adopting a zoning ordinance.
What does the police ordinance say?
No, no, he did not have an example. But he said to get in touch with him for that.
Okay, I agree with the question. What is the police ordinance for?
He said that's the defensible one in court, that ours isn't.
For what? Defending what?
Data center intrusion.
So this has nothing to do with moratorium.
No,
No,
it's what happens after you do a moratorium. Ann Arbor Charter Township recently announced they're doing a moratorium, and their board formed a team and said the team is going to recommend additions to the master plan, police ordinance, and zoning ordinances. And they're gonna take about 6 to 9 months and make recommendations. So they're gonna take that whole spectrum and make
yeah,
recommendations.
so it's more, not complex, I don't mean that to sound like that, but apparently there's more to it than we sort of thought the process could be.
I guess I'm thinking this way because the document you gave us to read talks about police ordinance, referendum, I think that was language.
But, yeah,
But that was in order to get protection for a moratorium.
For a
It
moratorium.
had nothing to do with the language on
No.
regulating data centers.
No,
What you're talking about is language for regulating data centers,
Yeah.
the police ordinance.
and it was a surprise to me, Paul, when he did, well, I downloaded the slides, and I didn't send them to you intentionally.
Who was the law firm?
He's a lawyer, no, he's the lawyer for the MTA.
oh, Burkock.
Yeah,
Or
that
something.
guy.
So there's two things. Starting the moratorium, how do you do that? And then after you have it, you're supposed to learn more about it and decide what to do.
Right,
And you're talking about the after you have the moratorium and you need to decide what to do. And that might involve multiple things.
right.
Police ordinance, zoning
So,
ordinance,
zoning ordinance.
master plan
Yeah,
recommendations.
so
But how do we start with the moratorium?
that's the board.
The board starts.
That's the document you handed out to us said you need protection via a police ordinance or a moratorium in addition to a resolution. But that's the board again.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we asked, what's the difference and why? Do you understand that? The MTA thing you gave us last time said,
well, again, let me see the slides.
but maybe do you have
I'm,
any?
I'm guessing, correct me if I misunderstood, Tom. So when we placed the agenda and the information in the packet, Tom didn't attend the conference by then. So the idea when the packet was placed is that for the board to take up a moratorium, there is a reason. So you are trying to give them a head start by having that discussion here and giving them a reason to adopt a moratorium. So that was the intent when that item was placed as a business item here, where the planning commission would be recommending to the board that they are interested in starting on an amendment to address data centers. While they work on that, they want to make sure that the board passes a moratorium so that they can work on it peacefully. So that's the idea when this was placed on the agenda, that you would discuss it
So now,
and provide a reasoning for the board to adopt a moratorium. In the meantime, after the packets has been distributed, Tom attended the webinar and then he learned that board adopting a police ordinance is more effective than a moratorium.
right,
So he's proposing that as an option to consider when you're suggesting to the board.
Instead of no moratorium.
both,
Both.
Both.
you can do both.
So we can talk today about whether we support a moratorium.
Correct.
And then the second question is then, what do you do after that?
You guys can do parallel amendment discussions, and then because for the board to adopt a police ordinance, they don't need, the act doesn't require them to have a public hearing or, one of those things. However, I do want to read more about that, Tom, about the police ordinance thing. I'm not able to provide my opinion on that one, because typically when a moratorium is adopted by the board, if the moratorium is for a police ordinance, then the moratorium can be adopted on the same day that it's introduced. But if the moratorium is for a zoning ordinance standard, it has to go through the zoning ordinance amendment process.
Right.
That moratorium requires a public hearing.
What if, like, Charter Township said, we're gonna make recommendations for all three of those things, but we don't have it yet. So,
That's
is that
definitely
fair,
a
public hearing?
They can choose, people can choose to do it, that's why I put out this Lodi Township thing.
Yeah.
These guys did it all in one meeting.
So
They had a draft ready like we did at our last meeting.
So now we're talking about a third option.
Do we have to have a public hearing if we're not sure what we're gonna do yet?
We don't have to, but then we're still discussing it, we're not
Right.
nobody's acting on anything, because you're still discussing one of the three options you would like to go with.
Well, I'm guessing that it's more than one thing.
It is.
So,
But clarification from last meeting on what you did pass out. I thought it read that the ordinance was a moratorium ordinance.
that's what I thought too.
That's what I thought that said, which protected, or it helped to better support a board moratorium. And then today, we're adding an additional layer to this.
Discussion, not to that draft.
Right,
Huh?
We're adding an additional
discussion.
option B.
Yeah, so, but based on today's training you attended, what I'm hearing is it's now the police ordinance is directly pertaining to data centers.
Correct. And that's, I don't need, Jeff, you're gonna go, more lawyer fees. But I'm not exaggerating. This guy, it's not in the slides, but every other comment he made on every other slide was, get your lawyer involved right up front and get somebody who's an expert lawyer on data centers. Because you're gonna spin your wheels, that you need that expertise right up front to help guide your process. Because he said, we collectively, boards, don't have enough experience in this. And he kept bringing up Celine, and apparently Ipsy has one. And it's like these guys are getting bowled over. He said, you get on it soon, you get the professional, wrong word, lawyers who are familiar, conversant in this, and he was adamant that we should get moving soon. And that's why you've heard me say more than once.
So-
He's forward, like, you know.
So I'm confused because from last month's document, as I thought it was, is we get the ordinance first, which is a moratorium ordinance.
We get the moratorium from them.
No.
It gives us a 12-month window.
But, no, it's a moratorium ordinance
Oh,
first.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's a moratorium ordinance first, and then comes the moratorium on data centers, and now today it's the police ordinance. But my question is, all these publications from these other townships, everybody just says a moratorium was passed. Not one person has said anything about a moratorium ordinance.
Okay, so I think there is an article I've included in the packet. If you go to page 38 of 49, that article was a good one. It was prepared by our attorneys. And I thought they summarized what I was looking for. I thought that was a good article. So if you are on page 38, look at the last paragraph for question 3, how can a township enact a moratorium? They gave us 2 options. Therefore, to be cautious, it may be appropriate for a township to enact a moratorium by 1, resolution and police power ordinance that can occur relatively quickly, and zoning ordinance amendment if related to regulating the land use, following the first 2 approvals. I think that's a good path.
So the steps.
Right.
Right.
I think that's a very good path, and I would recommend that.
So you do the resolution first, followed by the police ordinance?
Followed
Followed by the zoning ordinance?
Right, so the
That
board
makes
would
sense.
do a resolution
Mhm.
and a police power ordinance, where the resolution of the moratorium will give the planning commission the protection so that you can work on your zoning ordinance amendment, and the police power ordinance will at least tackle any immediate threats while you're working on it.
But you could do the moratorium first by,
Both, a moratorium and police power ordinance.
police power takes longer than a moratorium. You could do the moratorium in one meeting.
Right.
Police power can be done in one meeting too.
Because you don't need a public, you don't need a.
Because it doesn't need a public hearing, and because we are not charter township, it doesn't require a second reading either.
So if you hire the lawyers that know what they're doing, they can provide that base ordinance.
I think our lawyers also know what they're doing, but I would leave that to the planning
Well,
commission.
if, whoever they are, if it's
Right.
our lawyers,
Yes.
fine.
If it-
Well,
if
it's,
it's
I
our
mean, it
supervisor who
sounds,
says, go to these guys, that's who we go.
really
Whoever
sounds
says-
like the recommendation, after looking at this,
Yeah.
should be the board does a moratorium by police power.
Right.
Like,
And move along with that. I think the thought is, we could give the board, an estimate, I mean, do we need 12 months? Do we
Yeah.
need, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Six-
so
6
say,
months is too
so
short.
say we recommend this with, in a 12-month moratorium is how long it's gonna take.
Right,
Yeah.
so because the board's doing the moratorium
Yeah.
and police power ordinance, if anything happens in the meantime, it's a double protection.
And then we have to do the zoning ordinance. So this one says 6 months, this example, that's too short.
Too short.
It's gotta be a year.
I thought that, what did I see?
It's in
It's
Lodi,
on
Lodi only
43.
gave themselves 6 months too.
Oh, Lodi did,
In
yeah.
our packet, 43, page 43 says 6 months in this
Yeah.
draft. So that's hard to get all those
Yeah.
things done in 6 months.
And they started out number 3 though, with most Michigan case law in First Township should be able to enact moratoriums that are less than 1 year long simply by resolution.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if we need 12 months, we need 12 months, and that's what we throw on it. But I think that we make that recommendation to the board, and the board gets the language, moves along, does that part, sends it back to us for zoning.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you please reflect that in our minutes, so that
Well,
the board.
Can you repeat that more slowly?
Motion?
Jeff, please? The secretary's requesting.
I don't want a motion to myself, that doesn't work, Paul.
What I
No,
got,
you're making a motion.
Oh, Martha's stepping in
What I
there.
got is the board does the moratorium by police power and planning commission recommends.
Well, we need,
Moratorium by resolution, followed by police power.
Yeah, the planning commission is recommending a
you can probably just use the
moratorium.
language in the
Yeah,
thing. You can say that,
Okay.
enact-
okay, Martha, I'm starting over. No?
He was
Okay.
starting.
Oh,
Okay. The planning commission recommends the board enact a moratorium by police power ordinance. And henceforth, the police power ordinance.
Catching up, I'm catching up.
For 12 months. And then they need to direct the planning commission to write the zoning for that.
So I thought,
Is that correct?
I thought recommending a moratorium and then a police power were two separate
It's
things.
two separate things.
It is.
So
you didn't say that.
you didn't say that.
I said.
Well, that's what he
And
meant.
consequently,
No, he didn't say it quite right, but it's two separate things.
The police
Yes.
So it's moratorium by resolution
by resolution
and police power, and
and police
and police
power
powers.
and police powers.
ordinance for 12
Police
months.
power ordinance.
Yes.
Specifically for data centers.
The police power ordinance for data centers
And,
for a period of time.
and battery storage?
Do,
No, I think while we've got the opportunity and they're putting a moratorium on it, kill two birds with one stone, sort of. Yeah.
Remember, it was a big topic at the MTA conference, battery storage.
oh, yeah.
And they can have small properties.
Yeah, you're right, that's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
they don't need much land.
That's right, you don't need much land, yeah.
So could someone slowly repeat
Oh,
the
my
whole sentence?
I had
Battery storage for data centers.
No.
Oh,
No, but.
no, just battery
They're two different
storage.
things.
Oh my God. Got convoluted.
Martha, are you doing it?
No, because I started it, but then they added more to it, and now
I
I
did.
am confused.
All right, read it, Kay. You got it.
So far, I have a PC recommends that the board adopt a moratorium by resolution and a police power ordinance, or by resolution for 12 months and by police power ordinance. Is that the first sentence? And then there's a separate sentence for the planning commission.
Well, regarding data centers.
And battery storage.
Oh,
And-
regarding, okay, wait. So a moratorium by resolution for 12 months and a police power ordinance for data centers and battery storage.
Facilities.
Do we need to add all the stuff we had, and then one about establishing permitting, consideration, approval, location, construction, interim?
That's later, no, that's
Oh,
later.
that's later. And then
We just gotta get them to do something.
the board should direct the PC to develop a zoning ordinance for
Regarding the
data.
same.
Yeah, ooh, regarding same.
Regarding thing. Yep, there you go.
Fewer words. I've never been this one. Good?
Do we need a motion or?
Yes. I think that was the one. Jeff, are you making that motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion three. In that language that she just wrote, it was 12 months on the resolution, but it had no timeline on the police ordinance. Does there need to be one there?
No, not for police
All
ordinance.
right, just,
It's a permanent ordinance.
Okay. Discussion?
is that gonna be that rough to put together, Sri?
I mean,
You found it right now?
I think our attorneys might have one already.
Yeah, I think so too.
And there's already a draft of in here from Tony. Yeah.
And we have a special meeting, maybe we can get it out.
That'd be awesome.
Reread that, make sure we got it
Yeah,
right.
I just wonder.
Huh?
With private roads?
No, the other
Can we
one,
read
budget.
that? Just,
Oh.
Okay, what I think I wrote is the planning commission recommends that the board establish a moratorium by resolution for 12 months and a police power ordinance for data centers and battery storage facilities. The board should then direct the planning commission to develop a zoning ordinance for same.
Change the status, change the
Regulate.
status to adopt,
yeah.
Say that again?
change the status to adopt.
Adopt more,
Instead of
planning
establish,
commission to adopt.
I said develop, so you want.
Read
Recommend.
start
The
with
planning commission recommends that the board, I said, establish a moratorium. Adopt a moratorium. The board adopt a moratorium by resolution for 12 months and a police power ordinance for data centers and battery storage facilities. The board should direct the planning commission to develop and adopt,
To recommend.
to recommend a zoning ordinance for same.
good. So that's,
That was the motion.
that's the motion. Are you have to do the motion, you have to do the motion as amended.
Motion is amended.
Okay, second. You second it.
Second.
Okay. We need a roll call for this. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Rick?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Good discussion, folks. Discussion items, land ordinance amendment. And so, Sri had brought to us a couple months back now some land division issues that have come up, and a working group that included, here we go,
Who, Brant?
Brant,
He disappeared?
you left.
You go home?
Brant and Sri and I,
Bill.
and Bill Sinkpool, sat and talked to her. We think we've got a formula. So at the next meeting in your packet, you will see a draft.
So the board has directed planning commission to make a recommendation for them to amend the land division ordinance.
Right.
At the same time, that recommendation to the land division ordinance will also prompt some amendments to the zoning ordinance. so that they speak to each other, they're consistent. So the planning commission, the review team will be working on providing a recommendation to both for the planning commission to discuss.
So it, ironically, it came together pretty quickly once we saw literally all the corners and questions, and Grant did outstanding mathematics. No, he had the calculator out.
Engineer.
Give it, you give that in a minute. His calculator worked really great. Anything else, that anybody, questions on that at this point? Large solar team verbal update.
I think we didn't get too much of it. The major focus has been on small-scale solar amendment, but we did review the MTA, MSU extensions document on large scale, have some general ideas. I do wanted to just ask the Planning Commission, before we started talking about data center moratorium, the Planning Commission started a discussion on whether you need the board to establish a moratorium for large scale. And I don't know where.
So I thought that the planning commission had given it to us as a team to then talk about it and come back. And was that part of it?
The moratorium recommendation?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what,
Okay.
how we.
Then we
left
can
it.
probably go back and then, so is that what you?
Is that what you wanted? For the team to talk about that, or, and recommend to the planning commission whether we should have a moratorium?
Yes.
We weren't sure.
Well, we haven't talked about it, we spent so much time with
Small
small.
scale,
Yeah,
we
we
didn't,
haven't
so.
done it yet,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
if we clarify that, we can
Yeah.
talk about it.
So we, the review team should recommend planning commission whether they should recommend to the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Anything else on large scale? D, no, C, geez. So, you've heard me say this in previous meetings. I'm never shy about trying to look out somewhere. And in the interim, on master plan, in the interim, Kay had sent me a note about the composition of the Webster master plan team. And then I went back and looked at our old team that did it the last time. And then I went in with Sheree and we sort of came around and put windows on where we think the timing should be to meet our end. So we sort of worked backwards from, we're at the end of 27, and we need time to do this and time to do this, and to get the lawyers or the consultants on board. When do we start? And one of the things you'll see, which is like 60 days away, spring of 26 is establishing a steering committee with the goals and responsibilities. And then after that, you know, over the summer and into early fall, the board is going to have to be involved again, because you guys are the people who get to review the consultants that we would engage and make a recommendation to hire them. And that's why there's such a long timeline in there, because where you guys are suggests that it needs to get talked about now.
Yeah.
So the steering committee, and this is just, it's a way, but it's sort of based on where the Webster Township one was, which was different than ours the last time. It is whatever it needs to be. So if somebody goes, no, I think it should be this person, no, I think, but we don't have to decide this tonight. Think about it. Whatever. Dina was recommended from the Parks
Yeah.
because, you know, she knows your stuff has been around. And that's a whole different, you know, group than was involved before.
She'll be working on the grounds.
Yeah.
And she seems.
You know, PDR, we don't have a representative right now. I don't know how we engage that, or if we include somebody from, they were on last time.
Who was the rep last time? Westman was on it?
Well, so yeah, they were critical last time. They
Right.
reviewed the ag and the natural features section as many times as we did,
right, so,
and they had critical input. Yeah.
so where do we go for that now? Because
Mhm.
that's why there's double question marks, not just a single question mark.
I wonder if it would be helpful to sort of just bullet point, what does the steering committee do and what does the planning commission do to help decide who should be on the steering committee? Or are you gonna wait until the steering committee meets to do that?
Well,
Is that what they do?
That was sort of
Yeah,
the, yeah,
so you could always change it slightly
Right.
after you meet,
right,
right?
it
And
could
say,
it could
well,
be. Well, and, you know, and I don't, I'm not, Tony isn't now, she's not gonna run for reelection.
right,
Last time the clerk was involved. So what do? Do you put her on for 4 or 5 months and then have to reinitiate somebody else from the clerk? I mean, you know, there's
what
things in
about
here
the
that look,
deputy clerk?
yeah, it could be, well, but Donna said,
No, Elena is the deputy.
oh, that's right,
clerk.
Elena,
Just something to think about.
yeah.
So last time the clerk sent out all the notices
Right.
that we're starting to plan.
Well, then we require that, that's
Yeah,
why
it's required.
it's required.
But do they have to be on the committee?
Well, that's why they were,
Yeah,
so they were involved in that
they were involved.
communications.
But last time we didn't have this kind of committee.
No, we
so,
didn't.
Yeah. That's a good,
I think probably the recommendation, usually to have somebody on the steering committee is more like a representation from the administration,
Right.
from the board.
uh, from the office administration.
Well,
That's-
I like the idea of
So
having
that could be-
stakeholder, I like having the stakeholders
Because
involved.
they've gotta do the mailing.
No.
Well, so then the deputy clerk could be there.
She could.
So
Yeah.
that's what I suggested, the
Yeah.
deputy
No,
clerk would be the
Yeah, I was
person.
emphasizing, yeah, I was
Yeah.
echoing that
I mean,
makes sense
and-
because.
And I am seeking your counsel
Yeah.
to
Might be
decide
good to
who
bring
we,
in the process.
you know, well, so that we reach
Should
out
we-
and say, hey, we're gonna
Continuous.
develop a steering committee,
Mhm.
you guys wanna be on it?
Mhm.
Yeah. She would provide continuity, the deputy clerk.
Right. Is there anybody, so think about the PDR thing. Because I would like to, you know, have this group, I mean, we're driving the buggy. Get the right people so that we can make our jobs easier.
Who was on it before that's here, that's gonna be on it again?
Paul, George,
From the planning commission?
yeah.
So, yeah, the three of us did the plan, we were
And
here for
so-
the last
and
one.
So he's,
And Andrew was a big driver the last
right,
time.
he's not on PDR anymore, but Westman might still do it if you wanted him to.
I think it would, so what we need is the people who are currently on the PDR,
Right.
not someone who
Right,
was.
and I
Nothing
don't,
against him, but,
honestly, I don't know the PDR.
oh, so Julie Frost, I mean, I think a
Is
number
she
of them
new?
have, no, a number of them have been on there forever. And any one of them who's been on there forever would be awesome. Julie is the chair right now, I think,
Okay.
Yep,
and
Julie's on board, Nicole,
Tom is also awesome,
Linda,
so
Shelley.
I don't know.
Is there
Oh,
anybody?
Linda's been on a long time? I don't know Nicole very well.
She just got on it.
Okay.
Nicole's new, so maybe it would be better to have someone who's a long term.
So you guys are okay with me
Julie,
Maybe
Tom,
call
or
them.
Linda.
calling Julie first and then Tom and just see if they're willing to serve?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were all on it, those three, and Linda were on it last time we did it. So they would have some idea what's entailed.
Right,
Good idea.
okay.
Tom, you're probably thinking it. If I'm saying something you already thought, let me know.
Oh, I'm pretty fried right now.
So the board, because it's a steering committee, I need to, the board may have to establish it. So I think Kay's suggestion about trying to establish what the scope of, you know, the duties or
Yeah.
work is before, and then present it to the board
Yeah.
would be a good idea.
And then differentiate that, well, the planning commission still has a role, and
Right.
this is what the planning commission does,
Yeah.
Right,
and this steering committee does this, yeah.
right, because I think ultimately, master plan is planning commission's thing, and then we only have 2 members. Just kind of double, didn't we?
But the advantage of this, we've spent so much time
So you're not gonna be
coordinating
the
with all
PC
these
board
different
representative?
groups, that this will be much easier. We do not have to scramble.
Yeah, you're at the meetings anyway.
Right, no, it's a great idea, I was just,
That's why it was you, because you're on the PC and you're on the board and something comes up over there, you see, it's not like this.
Weston was that too, wasn't
He was.
Yeah,
He was PBR board and planning
he?
commission.
Yeah, I know, he was in the trifer.
and quite frankly, I don't see the steering committee as being like the heavy-handed, do this, but if there's objectives that the board sees or the PDR says, hey, by the way, this has come up in the last 5 years, and that determines the things that we start to look at in depth. Aside from having the consultants go through this and go, flag things. Because we've already talked about some of the issues that are on here that, Sri and I think need to be aligned as they are, that are currently in need of alignment. And there may be others. And that's where we get back involved and go, hey, by the way. But we're not, we're X number of brains seeing this. The PDR parks sees another set of things that, no offense to any of your reports, but we get 2 sentences, and it's like, oh, okay. But our master plan's a bigger document, man, that's,
Yeah, it's clear.
does that make sense? Okay. Thank you. I will reach out, and then, next meeting, maybe we can tinker a little bit more and get something to the board in our next meeting. Make sense?
What's your timing on completion?
End of 2027.
So, mo-
I mean, that's the end of the 5 year.
I know, but most, what I've seen, maybe Sri can comment, is most communities take 15 to 18 months to complete a master plan revision. So this timeline would finish in 2028.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Spring 2028 is probably the earliest.
However, those of us who have been in business,
Could be my so-and-so.
you never give them that amount of time, because if you do, it'll go there. I would rather have on our documents that we have the board looking at, that we're at the end of December 2027. And if we run over, so be it. But at least,
Yeah, but that looks
But
bad.
it's not realistic.
Because we have all the noticing requirements and
Yeah, it's,
public hearing and the survey, it's not.
I know,
so you guys have mapped out what we need to do to start the process, but you haven't added in all the pieces.
No, this is windows in time.
I know, but then the window in time for completion, there's a lot of things to be done in there
Right, I
that are
know.
required